What is up, HDA fans? We are here for a jam-packed Thursday. We are bringing you a full slate of matches as the HDA season has hit the mid-season mark. And boy, wow, it's going to be a good one. I'm joined here on this first set by none other than Patrick Spitzer himself. Patchy, what is going on? What do you got to say to the people at home right now?
Hey, yo, what up?
All right, just to
That's all
get
I gotta say.
That's totally fair. First, of course, we will have the Gary Garbodors against the Hulbury Hitmonlee. Coming up after that, it will actually, I have been told, be the Mount Mortar Hitmontops versus the Azalea Town Azumarills. The Battle of Ohio, as some have called it, the Cleveland Browts versus the Columbus Mew. The Trash Like Trubishes and the Indianapolis Garchomps in the fourth slot for us. So it's going to be jam packed, but let's get right into it. We have some trainers who are waiting for us, so we will pick this up. Sam Harris and the Gary Pokemon Club sitting at a fine 2-2 record on the season. Michael Jessup and his Hulbury Hitmonlee still searching for that first set win. Sam, of course, featuring that Tyranitar, featuring that Excadrill. I believe we had Sam on stream last week as well. Lots of interesting pieces here for this team. It'll be interesting to see how he chooses to deploy them. Patchy, anything jumping out to you from this team?
Yeah, I mean, I see a solid fast mode with T-Tar Excadrill. I see a solid slow mode with a few Trick Room setters, Araquanid, Garbodor. Uh, Not much to say. You got pretty obvious synergies, and then also Mega Banette could definitely do some interesting stuff here, so I'm excited to see how this one will go down.
Mega Banette with the Prankster, the Machamp with the No Guard. Lots of unique abilities on this roster, and of course, can't forget about Galarian Bro himself with that quick draw, quick claw shenaniganry. But of course, on the other side, it is Jessup himself. He still searching for that first set win, a bit to the surprise to some, of course, the man who knocked off Joey Pokey-Aim himself at Indy Regional just a few months ago. Still searching for that first set win. Patchy, who do you think Jessup's going to be able to lean on in this set to get him that first win?
Well, he does only have one Mega, so I think we're going to be seeing that Mega hit the field at some point today.
Absolutely. I think Mega Venusaur, right? You have to put eggs in that basket. Interestingly enough, last week we saw both Jessup and Allie both in a sort of a dead heat of trainers who refused to Mega their Pokemon, right? We saw that Venusaur relying on the chlorophyll in order to balance out those speed tiers, while Allie, of course, with the Garchomp, with the Scizor, two Pokemon that do not have to Mega. So it'll be interesting to see, do we see more base Venu here, or is it just going to be the Venu Chud itself? We are going to find out as we are getting into team preview for game number one. Patch, if you were a betting man, who are you putting your money on to win this set?
Ooh, I think Jessup has to be feeling some sort of feelings about being at 0-4, especially after his performance last season. I believe it was pretty good. So
Yeah, Jessup definitely a strong draft league player, of course. Going to be a bit of a challenge for him, but the playoffs are still wide open. We'll talk a bit more about the playoff race here, but interestingly enough, no Aerodactyl, no S tier from Jessup's team this week. We'll have to see. Not bringing one of your rock type sand immune Pokemon against the T-Tar Exca team is quite an interesting choice. But it's going to be Tyranitar and the Galarian Bro here to start against the base Samu and the Venu. Interesting leads on both sides.
that they certainly are. I think we're gonna see. Well, I mean, with the Galarian Slowbro out, I'm feeling a Trick Room angle from this lead for Sam. I think over on Jessup's side, we're probably just looking for some nice balance damage. You have the Samrod out for that, potentially Scarf, and of course Mega Venu. It does like that T-Tar matchup.
Yeah, I will say this is definitely not the worst board a Venusaur could see. Obviously, the Psychic type damage from the Galarian Slowbro could still be a bit of a problem, as we see Tyranitar bowing out in favor of the Machamp here. Very interesting. It will be the Mega Venusaur. So Jessup leaning on the big boy. We'll have to see here. And it's going to be the helping hand from the Samurott. So we're going to see what this Venusaur can do. Michael Jessup promising us some interesting sets. Nothing interesting about Earth Power, but boy, wow, is that effective. Chunking the Slowbro down to a mere 21%. But it will, of course, be that Trick Room that you foreshadowed, Patch. So, 5 turns in Trick Room now. Will Jessup survive as we watch the sand tick down, revealing the speed order? Slowbro, Machamp, Samurott, then Venusaur, the fastest Pokemon. Machamp wielding that leftover, so the sand negated there, but Slowbro on a little bit of borrowed time now.
Yeah, that Slowbro will be expiring shortly, and being a Psychic type, if it attempts to attack... Oh, wait, I don't remember if regular Samurott gets access to Sucker Punch. It might.
That is an interesting question. Gen 5 Oshawott fans, does it get Sucker Punch, or is that only the Hisuian counterpart? Let us know in the chat, because boy, wow, we don't know. Part of the fun of Draft League, though, we'll see how well do our trainers know each other's matchup. The Galarian Slowbro going to switch out, revealing Dupiter here, or not Dupiter, Araquanid, sorry, that's the fully evolved one. But it's instead the Aqua Jet, so a priority move of a different color, as it's the Dynamic Punch reveal. So, not very effective, but most importantly, I think, getting that confusion down onto the Venusaur. It will just be the Giga Drain, though, doing pretty respectable damage into the Machamp. So most of that Dynamic Punch damage has been negated, and again, the sands of time ticking down on these Pokemon, one after another. Sand tick, sand tick, sand tick, leftovers again on the Machamp. Going to keep it from losing any excessive hit points here, but so far so good in terms of navigating the Trick Room for Jessup.
Yeah, I don't know what Sam really hopes to do with Jupiter in front of these... Sorry, Dupiter. I think you did just do another pronunciation blunder. We'll certainly find out in the Discord after this match, though.
Well, yeah, we are being a little bit misled by the nicknames, is that the Araquanid is the fully evolved one, Dupiter is the little baby one.
Oh, you're right.
As we're going to see Helping Hand and then a Leech Seed, so Araquanid able to at least get some HP back. This could just be the Sustain War, but it's going to be the Attract reveal? Is this Generation 2? Are we going back into the blender? Venusaur slapping itself in confusion, that Helping Hand being absolutely wasted there, and so now is Michael Jessup, the man who has been known to goob you at a local, is he getting goobed here?
I do believe he's getting a bit goobed. Still not sure what the Araquanid is doing in this board state. You got 2 water resists on the other side of the field, and as we saw, Leech Life isn't really doing anything, so it looks like we're just going to be sitting in Trick Room for a few more turns as these Pokemons trade blows, or rather, while Venusaur punches itself in the face.
Yeah, there are blows being sent, but they're also being returned to sender, so to speak. I think it's interesting to note here, 3 turns into this Trick Room and the sand, we've not revealed any of the backmons for Jessup. Although if you look at that board, there are a lot of pieces that wouldn't really mind this board state, as we do see the Venusaur switching out here, and it's going to be the Liepard. So the last Pokemon I expected to see come in under Trick Room, hitting the board, but it's going to be Liquidation, chunking it down quite a bit. Dynamic Punch, not going into the Dark type, will hammer the Samurott, though, down to 7%. A Confusion proc would be the end, and it is, in fact, Samurott with the self-KO to be the first Pokemon felled. Somebody get the commissioner on the phone. We need to figure out how to score that one for the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I wonder if that, who does that count for? The Confusion Pokemon? The own Pokemon? I figure you can't count for KOing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be tough to say. However, we do see Venusaur return to the field, no longer confused, no longer attracted to the female Machamp across the board. And the Liepard, I mean, it reasonably healthy, will have access to its bevy of moves, right? It does have access to Fake Out, does have access to that Prankster. So what will it be? It's going to be a Prankster Screech into the Araquanid. That's very interesting. Leech Life in return will be the end of the cat. So,
Unless we see a physical attack from this Venusaur, I don't see how that's useful here, though. Because, I mean, that's very easy to just switch out of.
yep, and of course the attract, right? Back to the love games for the Venusaur, but it will just be another Giga Drain. So you have to ask yourself, is Jessup resolving to being in a 2v4 with that Screech? Is he perhaps setting up one of these Backmons for a chance to Oko the Araquanid in that slot? Because as long as Venusaur can stop simping, he might be able to take 2 KOs here, as it's going to be the... gosh, I don't even remember which one that is. Is that Sandaconda?
Sandaconda, yes.
Sandaconda. The, yep, that snake from Generation 8 that we all definitely remember. And this is where I'm going to find out that I'm wrong about that, and it's actually from Generation 7, and I'm just stupid.
No, I think you're right about that. I do believe it is Gen 8. I certainly remember seeing it out... Oh, Rock Blast!
Rock Blast
only get 2
indeed,
hits.
but only 2 hits. The Detect coming out from the Machamp. Venusaur, not immobilized by Love, but its attack will be immobilized by that Detect. Liquidation, the snake will be no more. So now it's Mega Venusaur against the world, just like Scott Pilgrim. We're going to have to see if this story ends any differently, as you do have access to the Giga Drain. There are some Pokemon that do vaguely resemble health packs. If you're able to perhaps remove this Machamp and break this attract, it could be possible, right? There's no Excadrill nor Rotom Frost in the back to really threaten Venusaur here. So do we see the miracle reverse sweep in game number 1?
I think if any Mon can do it, it is definitely Mega Venusaur. But we will have to see.
We will indeed, as Araquanid will give way to the Galarian Bro, and Venusaur...
just so in love. That is really unfortunate.
Love is a confusing thing indeed, and now, well... Venusaur, you're going through it, buddy. I get that. I've been there too. This reminds me of my freshman year of college all over again. Hopefully it goes better for you than it did for me. But we may be... I mean, it's too early to tell though, right? What will Venusaur be able to do here? No, it slaps itself in confusion. Body Slam now. If this were to paralyze, that would just be the cruelest thing I've ever seen. But instead, it will be a Psychic coming out, ending game number 1.
Drop it.
Putting Jessup out of his misery. And boy, wow. The last time I saw something blended like that, I went out for a smoothie.
Yeah, that is probably the most evil Machamp set you could ever build, and I'm surprised that it really just worked exactly as intended.
Yeah, that was certainly diabolical. We will have to see what our trainers are able to do in game number 2, of course. I think most interestingly, no Excadrill brought there, so you do still have to respect the Tyranitar Excadrill that is being presented, but how do you counteract something like Dynamic Punch Confusion into Attract?
You just pray. I do believe that is the strat here.
It may just come to that, right? It may be like playing those obnoxious minimize overquills on ladder. Of course, though, still 2 unrevealed Pokemon on each side. We have not seen the Overquill nor the Malamar, but I think of note, looking at the genders, which not normally something you have to be concerned about these days with Pokemon, but the Machamp able to attract 4 of Jessup's 6 Pokemon. Only the Samurott and the Liepard will be immune to that move. And outside of the Malamar, I don't really know that Jessup has access to something that can remove that Pokemon quickly.
Yeah, I don't think, and I'm not even sure Malamar can. That Mon is not really known for its offensive pressure, and the Machamp with leftovers appeared to be very bulky built.
Indeed, support Machamp. Not the way Bruno drew it up back in Generation 1, but certainly effective here as we are getting into game number 2. We'll have to see what adjustments Michael Jessup can come up with here to try to rally First off, it's going to be a run back on the side of Sam. It's going to be the Slowbro Tyranitar lead. We do see the Malamar adjustment here, though. Certainly not in a bad spot here, threatening super effective damage, or, well, no, it wouldn't be neutral damage into the Slowbro with Stab Psychic moves, but a Pokemon known to run Superpower could be threatening a massive amount of damage into a Tyranitar here.
That it certainly could, and you really like to be set up even if Sam goes for the same thing with the immediate swap into Machamp and setting Trick Room, setting up a Superpower and chunking Machamp at the same time would be pretty nice.
Absolutely. And we've seen the Giga Drain, we've seen the Earth Power from this Venusaur, so perhaps there are still some unrevealed tricks up the sleeve here for Jessup. It'll be interesting to see. It's actually going to be the Venusaur departing the field here into that Liepard, saying, this is a pretty safe board for me to bring this support piece in on, but instead of a switch, it will be Mega Tyranitar. Of course, there's no Charizard here, so he doesn't need to save the Mega Evolution to reset the sand, but it will be the Superpower from Malamar. 4 times super effective move, bringing Tyranitar down very, very low. A double up from the Venusaur would have been enough to fell it, but instead it's just going to be a Rock Slide. And, oof, that's certainly a lot of damage taken by the Liepard. But most notably, no Trick Room, the Psychic, into the Dark-type Pokemon for no effect. So, at the end of the day, I think Jessup may have come out on top with that turn.
I do believe you're right. Seeing those speed interactions, Malamar will get the chance to take out this Tyranitar before it moves, and I believe Liepard will get something off. Ooh, Screech.
Screech into the Bro. This could be a lot of damage, but no, it'll actually be the Superpower to finish off the Tyranitar. No Rock Slide, no knockoff, no damage of any kind coming out of that slot. And now, you've got a +2/+2 on the Malamar, so it is starting to appear to be a bit of a threat, but the special type Sludge Bomb will ignore those physical defense boosts, proccing the Citrus Berry, but the sand's ticking down on all of these Pokemon. But the initial advantage does go to Jessup here. Mega Evolution down on the side of the opponent as we see the Excadrill, so a bit of a switch up from both sides here.
Yeah, we're looking at a bit of a faster mode. I wonder what that means for the 4th Pokemon, if it is going to be Rotom or if he's going to bring Machamp back. I don't know which is better, honestly, but we see Rain Dance go up.
We saw the Prankster Weather as well coming out from Jessup last week. It will be the X-Scissor, though, from the Excadrill, enough to take out the Malamar in spite of those defense boosts because of the critical hit.
No!
Oh. So just when it was looking so good, now, well, it's starting to look slightly less good. Although you've eliminated the sands, taken away the Sand Rush advantage from the Excadrill, and where there is a Venusaur, there is a way, if you can keep it safe, from that Slowbro Psychic. It'll be interesting to see what these two Pokemon can team up for, although we do have to be wary. There is still an unrevealed 4th Pokemon in the back on the side of Sam.
And I think we might be seeing a swap on this turn because the Screech is still down on that Galarian Slowbro. You definitely don't want to get hit by a physical attack from this Choco Chunkmon.
Yeah, a physical hit could spell a lot of danger in that slot, and you have to think, even without the Sand Rush, if you have access to something like Earthquake on the Excadrill, a swap into that Rotom Frost could be quite appealing here, but no switches. It will just be a Mega Evolution. Venusaur going into that full bloom, getting access to those extra stats. It will just be the Protect. Galarian Slowbro keeping itself safe. Did Jessup call this? It's going to be the high horsepower from the Choco Chunk. So interestingly of note, the Snake is the fastest Pokemon. Ironhead will come out, not a 2-hit knockout though. Giga Drain from Mega Venu will be a 2-hit knockout into the other slots. So Jessup splitting his damage and rewarded with the better end of the trade on that turn.
Yeah, and I think Kalshi is threatened by another high horsepower. I do believe super effective, and at -2 defense, that's just going to pick up regardless of bulk on that mod. So I'm expecting a switch, but we still have no idea what that could be.
We will have to see. Very interesting. Sandaconda, not the fastest Pokemon, so it's interesting to see it moving ahead of Venusaur there. Perhaps could be hinting at the held item. The Slowbro will depart, and it is the Machamp. So, with that no guard, no concerns about high horsepower accuracy going into that slot. Ironhead will come out. One more hit into the Choco Chunk will be enough to fell it, but it's actually the Earth Power to finish off the Excadrill. Very interesting targeting here from Jessup.
I wonder what he was expecting into that slot to go for Earth Power instead of Giga Drain. I guess if you expect, well, no, because all the other mons are neutral to it.
Yeah,
Or
certainly
better.
a little bit of an interesting choice there for certain. But now, speed is definitely in Jessup's favor on this turn. You have to make a decision, though. Do you target down that Machamp, which was just such a menace in that last game, or do you cover for the Trick Room setter?
I have no idea. I don't know if you can pick up the Trick Room setter with Kalshi, even with a double up with Earth Power and High Horsepower. But is it even worth it to try?
Absolutely. I mean, we do know this Machamp will need multiple turns to set up the blender again. It'll be the high horsepower coming out, taking the Machamp very low. Is it the double up? It is. So Jessup saying, no thank you. I do not want to be in love. I do not want to be confused. Machamp will go down, but what's it going to be here? It's actually just going to be the Psychic into the Venusaur. Enough for a 2-hit knockout, and the Giga Drain will be resisted. So it'll be interesting to see how this final turn plays out here. High horsepower plus earth power has to be the call here from Jessup. Will that be enough to pick this up? We'll find out later because it's going to be a protect instead.
Yep, stalling out that final turn of rain for probably no reason.
No, not much of a reason. I mean, Venusaur is probably feeling very hydrated, but no tangible benefit surely. But I think Jessup may actually have found a way here to bring us to a game number 3. I don't know that this Galarian Slowbro has access to any spread moves. The first high horsepower connects 90%. No defense drops because of the switch. Oh my goodness, that wasn't even a crit. The earth power will be enough to clean this one up. And we are going to go to a game number 3.
That we will. This is interesting. I think we pretty much confirmed Scarf on that that snake.
I would be astonished if it wasn't. But anything is possible. Of course, neither trainer running anything with Frisk nor Poltergeist. So no real way for us to know outside of what we are able to infer. But we are going to find out here, wasting no time, ladies and gentlemen. We are bringing you the first game number 3 of the day. How many game 3s will we get? We will find out, but we've gotten at least one. So, let's see. We've had Malamar revealed. Still Overquill in the back for Jessup, unrevealed at this time. And still the Rotom Frost, a Pokemon that I would think has to be pretty appealing in this matchup, has yet to make an appearance for Sam.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with the Rain Dance, surely that Overquill is Swift Swim, right?
It's a distinct possibility. And I mean, you look at Sam's team, outside of that Rotom, you have 5 Intimidate targets. So if it's an Intimidate set, you have access to that as well. So Overquill could be the ace in the hole here. We will have to see. We are locked and loaded. Game number 3. It's going to be the 3rd straight run back here from Sam, Tyranitar, and the Bro. But it will be the reveal of the Overquill and the Liepard here for Jessup. So we are about to learn quite a bit. No Intimidate coming out. So it is very possible this may be a Swift Swim to rival that Sand Rush.
Yeah, I would guess so. But with the Trick Room setter on the board, I don't know if you want to go for immediate Rain Dance and rely on Swift Swim.
We will have to see, of course. Tyranitar will Mega Evolve, but threatening super effective damage into that Psychic type, it's going to be that Prankster Screech. Galarian Slowbro. We saw how much damage it took from a high horsepower. It will be the Crunch coming out, countered by that Colbur Berry. How much will Overqwil be able to do through that Resist Berry? Not enough for the KO, 27% remaining. Tyranitar, as we get a third defense drop now, will get a chance to retaliate on behalf of its partner with this Rock Slide. That's going to do massive damage in the Jessup's side of the board. A critical hit onto both? Oh my goodness. Michael
That
Jessup,
is very unfortunate.
I don't know what you did in France, but I suggest you undo it, good sir, because you are cursed, brother. As the Trick Room does go up, but yeah, that's hard to come back from. A double Rock Slide crit on turn 1, bringing both of Jessup's Pokemon well into the yellow in exchange for, you know, a Colbur Berry and some HP. As Galarian Slowbro, we haven't seen any quick draw shenanigans. It's probably Regenerator, I would say. And now Machamp is back, ready to be a menace, but it's going to be a copycat, reversing the room. Jessup with the trick play. Will he be able to capitalize on it? It's going to be the Waterfall from the Overqwil. No stab on that move, no rain to boost it, but it will do a decent chip, and he gets the flinch!
And he gets the flinch! Oh my goodness, the RNG is crazy today.
If you believe in cosmic justice, you may have just witnessed it. 2 crits equals a flinch? I'm not sure. But if you're Jessup, the door, it looked like it was closing, but you've now found the window that was left open in this game. What will you be able to do here with these Pokemon? It'd be very interesting to see. Do you prioritize that Rain Dance? Do you prioritize that Machamp that has been a menace? Or do you try to remove this Tyranitar in one fell swoop to deny sand for the rest of the game?
I wonder. I think with the rain boost, it's probably close to a roll with that Waterfall.
It'd be interesting to see 37%. Even if you don't pick up the KO, though, there is always the chance of a second flinch. It'll be interesting to see Tyranitar just going for the Protect here, keeping itself safe. Rain Dance will be the play. So, Sand preserved on the side of Sam for now if he moves that Tyranitar off the board. But Jessup gets the call right, goes with the Waterfall into the Machamp. That Bulk, though, showing off. It will be the Dynamic Punch, and now Overqwil, it's not just confused. It is very much down and out here in game number 3. But you've managed to navigate. You've denied the Trick Room. You've denied the Sand. How do you capitalize on this?
You've also chunked 3 of his Pokemon, and with how slow Sam's team is, I think this is really comfortable territory for Big Man Venusaur to get out in here and get moist.
Absolutely. Let's get this place humid indeed may be the game plan, but you have to be concerned about all the shenanigans that this Machamp can get up to. Not to mention the super effective Dynamic Punch that it's threatening into your support Liepard. We've seen Copycat, we've seen Rain Dance, we've seen Screech. I believe we do still have a unrevealed 4th move, as Tyranitar will retreat for the moment, but Mega Venusaur will take its commanding place on the board here. What will the targets of choice be for Jessup? What is the final move on this Liepard? It's just going to be a Copycat once again. It's going to Dynamic Punch into the Machamp! What a play! This is what happens when you put Michael Jessup in the kitchen. He starts to cook.
And what a call!
The Earth Power, targeted originally at the Tyranitar, but will be enough to take out the Galarian Slowbro. And now, a taste of its own medicine, but there is love in the air. Attract does land onto Venusaur. Leftovers does proc, but we'll have to see here. Liepard does have access to Copycat. Could potentially Copycat that Attract. I have no idea. Well, no. Neither Pokemon on the opposite side of the board are able to be attracted by the female Liepard, so that play may be off the table. Be interesting to see here how Jessup navigates this. It may just be a Rain Dance to deny the special defense boost from that Tyranitar, but be interesting to see how he chooses to play this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a pretty comfortable play here. You take down the Sand, stop ticking down Sand Chip, and I think Giga Draining through these 2 Mons is probably pretty good for as long as you are not. Oh, interesting.
We will have
The
to see.
Rotom.
It is the Rotom adaptation hitting the field here, although Mega Venusaur with that thick fat a little unbothered, so to speak, but it is bothered by love. The love is in the air, the confusion is in the air, the Machamp dealing quite a lot of damage to itself.
That defense drop really mattered there.
Oh my goodness, you are exactly right. The Screech into it to lower the defenses so that it does more damage with its own self-confusion. So we see 4 turns of sand, the infatuation there, and the confusion, and the 2 stages of defense drops. This Liepard is paying dividends here for Jessup, but you have to wonder, 15% HP, only 2, maybe 3 turns left on the board at most with this Sandship. How much longer will it be able to stick around before it's forced to take its leave and Jessup's 4th Pokemon has to take its place?
I don't know. I'm surprised it's been on the field for this long, honestly. I would have thought he wanted to preserve it for later, but I guess not.
It's going to be the Trick revealed as the final move into the Rotom. Iron Ball onto the Rotom in exchange for a Citrus Berry. So, Liepard now will be sticking around for just a little bit longer. But Venusaur, get your head out of the gutter, as it's going to also be Eerie Impulsed. So now, not only immobilized by love, but its special attack is going to be severely hampered.
Yeah, I think you are really pressured to switch Venusaur out on this turn, but I don't know what you want to switch in. Kind of any of your Pokemon has taken a lot of damage from a double up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here. And of course, Liepard now, the full move set revealed. The Trick, the Rain Dance, the Copycat. I suppose you could trick away the leftovers from the Machamp. That could be a final parting gift. But it's actually going to be the Screech that misses.
Very unfortunate. Screech only has 85% accuracy.
True. That is true. Liepard deceiving us with the accuracy up to this point. It will be an exchange of a Giga Drain for a Body Slam here. Venusaur coming out of that okay, but it's going to be the Dark Pulse. So you're telling me that there's a tracked confusion, a chance for paralysis, and a chance for a flinch. That's evil.
This might just be the evilest team we've seen all season.
Indeed, Jessup is fighting with the demons today. That is for sure. Although, still not the worst board state as long as the attraction does not completely derail this for you. And we also now interestingly see, a bit of an interesting strategy here from Sam, not wanting to give Liepard access to the Copycat Dynamic Punch. So we see this Machamp now playing very, very defensively. Venusaur, however, will Earth Power into the Rotom, which because of the Iron Ball loses access to Levitate. There's so many layers in this matchup. Thunderbolt, however, will be the end of Liepard. So, down to 2 Pokemon is Jessup, down to 49% is the Venusaur. The sand ticking down once again here. These 2 Pokemon are low, but they have not been KO'd. And now Venusaur not only stuck on the field with the attraction, but stuck on the field as -2, as the Choco Chunk will take the field once again. But at this point, this might just be the board that you want this snake to be in.
I really wonder if that is Scarf and it has access to Earthquake. That might just be the lock here. You've got low HP Machamp. You've got chipped Tyranitar. You've got Iron Ball Rotom. All of which do not want to eat an Earthquake.
Venusaur immobilized by love as we see a Protect come out from the Rotom. Perhaps a Protect as well on that side. And it will be the Earthquake lock in. A little bit of predictive foresight from my co-caster there. Venusaur will hang on through that hit as we see the Machamp finally go down. And certainly with that Choice Scarf, with the Iron Ball on that Rotom, it may just be the Sanacondra show for the rest of the game. We'll have to see. 63% on the Tyranitar is no small amount of HP, though. May require 2 Earthquakes to fell that Pokemon. We'll have to see what the play is here from Venusaur. Surely now that you are no longer immobilized with love, you will be going for a protect so that you aren't KO'd by your own partner. I don't know if Venusaur will be able to take an Earthquake after the Sand Chip, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you're hoping that one of these Pokemon you have will be able to knock out whatever remains after this Earthquake.
We'll have to see. Rotom will go down. Tyranitar down to 16%. What will the play be here? It's going to be the reveal of Crunch, so no knockoff to remove the Choice Scarf. But at this point, we've seen the Earthquake damage come out. This may just be a board-wiping final turn here for the Snake, whose name I'm going to stop trying to pronounce correctly.
Yeah, no, that's Choco Chunk.
Choco Chunk indeed. But, yeah, Chunk more like Captain Chunk on this one. We'll have to see.
Short of a protect, I don't know if Lisan Al-Gaib will be able to pull anything off here.
We will have to see. The protect will fail on the side of the Venusaur. The Tyranitar will succeed. So Jessup's Choco Chunk will be getting credited with another team KO. But the chat certainly popping off a little bit here. As short of divine intervention, I think we may be seeing Makelder Jessup getting on the board with his first win of the season.
I do believe so. I don't know how you can get out of this board state if you're a Tyranitar.
Yeah, I think the only way out is back into the Pokeball. As we see the Earthquake come out, Tyranitar will go down, and Makelder Jessup, the Hulbury Hitmonlee, have finally claimed their first victory on the season. Congratulations to Michael. What an impressive performance, rallying back after being absolutely blended up in that game number 1.
That was well played. I mean, he was right. He did say, "Wait till you see these sets," and I was surprised by some of those sets. That the Snake being Choice Scarf, certainly a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's not waste any time getting into it. The man of the moment, Michael Jessup himself. What do you have to say for yourself, sir?
You know, I'm finally happy I can put on a show for everybody where I actually come out with the dub instead of just getting my ass kicked. Finally, the text kind of paid off for a week.
Absolutely, absolutely indeed. But let's start by talking about that blender that you got thrown into in game number 1. Did you have a tracked plus dynamic punch Machamp on your bingo card? And how much did your heart sink when you realized that 4 of your 6 Pokemon were going to be vulnerable to that attract?
Um, I did not expect a tract on my champ. I didn't know it was down with the Huzz like that. But I did realize when he clicked it on me that I've been running the same like 8 Pokemon on rotation. I just put them in the builder, but they're the exact same ones. I just changed the move sets. And I've known that they were mostly male because I'm struggling with nicknames every week. But so he definitely did his scouting and saw they were mostly male. And as soon as he clicked attract, I'm like, oh no, this guy prepped pretty good today.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that prep come through in a couple of different points, but yeah, chat popping off over Copycat Liepard. Definitely not the easiest Pokemon to navigate, but talk us through that crafty move pool with the Copycat, the Trick Iron Ball, that final move that you didn't reveal until well into game number 3. Talk to us about that one, bud.
So the Trick Iron Ball was a late addition. I think I put that on today actually because I could not get past Scarf Rotom in my prep. If Scarf Rotom was just clicking blizzards, I was going to lose. So I needed something to slow it down for my Sandaconda if it came to it. But he didn't bring it game 1 or 2. So game 3, as soon as I saw it, I knew I couldn't risk it anymore. And I got the one turn to throw the Iron Ball on there just to be safe. I mean, it wasn't Scarf, but I did get to ground it with the Iron Ball, which was kind of a fun second tech, which let me come in later with the Earthquake and start cleaning up. That Liepard set, I clicked Copycat a lot in practice. I knew it was kind of funny and stupid, but I also learned through practice. I have to be very careful on how I do it. I almost clicked Aqua Jet in like game 3 with the Overquill, and then I was going to click Aqua Jet and Copycat, but then the Copycat would have happened second and copied the Aqua Jet and not copied the Trick Room. So I caught myself before clicking that button, but I almost messed that one up.
Yeah, and Good thing that you did, because that play was utter brilliance, my man. Patchy, what do you got for the mad scientist who's finally gotten himself on the board for the season?
Well done. Do you know, was Malamar going to survive that X Scissor if it wasn't crit?
Not at that low of health.
Ah,
I played around with the different berries on it, and I thought about a bug berry. But I knew that Malamar was probably going to be a one-off bring, and it was just to see and bait out that X scissor if he had it, which I mean he did, so he caught me on that one.
Only in Draft League do people talk about bringing the bug resist berry. That's absolutely crazy work. But yeah, so now with the pointing system claiming your first win up to 3 points on the season, certainly a long way to go with 3 weeks. But I'm no statistician, I'm no mathematics person, but there is always the slim chance that you are able to rally and sneak in to the back side of the playoff bracket. Certainly, that's got to be the goal, right?
No, it's probably cooked for me. So I'm just each week coming in, playing some text, trying to ruin some people's seasons and make some highlight plays.
I didn't even. I was.
awesome.
Oh, I was gonna make a joke about how he griefed Pokey-Aim at Indy Regional too, but he didn't stick around for it. Oh, Jessup. Well, yeah, that is Michael Jessup, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to him. A fantastic performance, absolutely. I had a whole bit prepared where I was going to compare him to a now defunct Korean esports team called the Jin Air Green Wings, who they were not a good League of Legends team, to the point where their fans started posting a Microsoft Paint graphic of a airplane with a sad face and some tears on it, and they would just post it with sadplane.jpg. And then they finally won, and their fans were posting gladplane.jpg. Well, Jessup, we are gladplane.jpg for you, my buddy. We are going to
Yes, we are.
get ourselves situated here for this second set. I believe, Patchy, you may be hopping off the mic. I may have a new
Yeah.
co-pilot as we fly into this next one, but I believe our trainers are getting set. So we will take a quick little break here while we get all that sorted, and we will be right back for game number 2, which is going to be those Mount Mortar Hitmontops against the Azalea Town Azumarills. Stick around. We'll be right back, folks.
Woo.
And we are back. And I have the pleasure of being joined by 2026 Worlds qualifier himself, Austin Lay. Austin, how you doing, man?
Good. I think the more impressive achievement that I have, though, is knowing what the Jin Air Wings and being around when they had two teams.
Both. The answer is both, especially if you remember both of them. Oh man, that's such a throwback. That's like,
Hey
oh
man,
dude.
Nash and Black Sword was like one of my favorite teams
Oh
of
man.
all time.
Yeah. Those old school LCK days, man, they don't make them like they used to. Although they're trying to. You know, classic League, I guess. But we're not here to talk about League of Legends. We're here to talk about VGC Draft League, and we have a absolute thriller here for game number 2. It's going to be Joey and the Mount Mortar Hitmontop going up against the other Austin Choi, and the Azumarills at 3-1. I'm going to do a quick breakdown of these rosters here before we get into game number 2. Here on the side of Joey, been very prominently featuring that Mega Lucario this season with that eclectic supporting cast: Altaria, Tinkaton, Blastoise, Skarmory, the Lopunny, but also the threat of that Mega Gengar and that Glaceon, which has been a bit of a sleeper in the damage department. Austin, anything standing out to you from this set of Pokemon?
Yeah, like you take the team at face value and like, wow, there's a lot of fake out, there's a lot of like perish potential, there's a lot of encore disable shenanigans you can go for. But then you look like one step deeper and you're like, oh, they can turn off the weather. They've got a lot of threats. Like Mega Lucario will just do so much damage if you get it into position. Glaceon, it can be just an absolute terror in the right teams, and you kind of never know what the Blastoise is actually going to do to you.
Right. Is it that support Blastoise? Is it just going to Shell Smash Water Spout you to death? You never know. But on the side of Austin, we've got one of the more colorful rosters, of course, centered around that Azumarill, the mascot, the Pokemon that he knows and loves oh so well. We saw Mega Pinsir make its season debut last week. I won't spoil it if you missed that one. But yeah, definitely a very well-rounded roster here for Austin. It's going to be interesting to see how he chooses to deploy this one this week.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big I like Pinsir. I'm very known within some of my communities as a bug type enjoyer, but I haven't really gotten the chance to use it and see what it's worth, and maybe this will be the day to do so. I think like Scovillain's a little bit Scovillain and Dragapult are two very strong, very fun mons to use, and there's always a lot that you can do with Azumarill and Kangaskhan. So many options you could run. Perish, you could run Sap Sipper, you can run Belly Drum. There's so much creativity available to these trainers.
Absolutely, and we're going to get right into it. Of course, that Scovillain and Dragapult you mentioned are the leads on Austin's side, but it will be the Gengar and the Lopunny here for Joey. So it'll be interesting to see what the locks are. First, of course, it will be the Mega Gengar coming out. All of that damage is going to be at its disposal. You have to presume either Scovillain is switching, or it's actually just going to be the Protect here. Interesting call here from the side of Austin. Keeping that Pokemon safe. Yep, Fake Out into the Protect, keeping it safe from the Lopunny. Phantom Force, the move of choice, so a physical Dragapult this week, and that will keep it safe from the Shadow Ball coming out right on cue. Moody boost to the speed as well, so the Protect paying off for the Scovillain here.
Yeah, the speed boost is really, really good, but I don't think that the Lopunny has too much to take it down, so yeah, that Gengar is in danger this turn. Phantom Force does break Protect, so you can't even Protect to just bait out the 2-turn move.
Absolutely, the switch has been forced, and it's actually going to be the Altaria making the appearance here.
A good switch.
Absolutely. One thing Altaria does have in its favor is a fair bit of natural bulk, so may be able to stand up to this Phantom Force. But how do you handle spicy food? It's Mega Scovillain time. We're going to have to see the Phantom Force. How much does this do? Over 50% into Altaria.
That's a lot of damage. Unless this is Citrus.
No Citrus in sight. Flamethrower will be taking the Lopunny down to about half, but it's going to be a switcheroo play. What will be the item swapped here? Iron Ball onto the Dragapult and a
Wow.
Light Clay reveal. So not only a clever play here, but also a bit of information gathered about moves this Dragapult may have stashed in the back.
Yeah, that's very big. Dragapult's very well known for its speed, 142, and now all of that gets taken away on a team that, well, probably has Trick Room, but that Trick Room doesn't matter. Well, won't matter as much.
Yeah, and I think you might be hard-pressed to bring your Trick Room mode if you're leading the Dragapult as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Austin chooses to play this one, what Pokemon he has in the back. Scovillain will be departing, and the Jolteon taking its place here. So, speed for speed. The Helping Hand reveal, though, from the Lopunny. 3 moves revealed in 3 turns. It's going to be a Raw Hurricane from the Altaria that the Jolteon will dodge as the light screen comes out from the very slow Dragapult now.
That's a lot of investment. Because the Dragapult is relatively slow, you're really only going to get 4 turns of those screens usefulness.
Absolutely. Very interesting to see how the speed interactions play out as well. Austin has been known to put the Choice Scarf onto that Jolteon, so God, it's just going to be so interesting to see how these speed tiers interact as they get shifted about, especially that Iron Ball trick. We saw Dragapult now slower than the Altaria, prioritizing screens over something like perhaps a Dragon Darts to clear that slot as well. Altaria will switch out into the Mega Gengar, so now a Jolteon on the field that can be trapped. Thunderbolt will come out, and that will be the end of Bugs the Lopunny with a critical hit. Not sure how much that mattered. Jolteon does have a fair bit of special attack investment, and it is going to be that Phantom Force once again. So now, on the side of Joey, you have no way of blocking this Phantom Force unless you once again switch the Gengar out.
Yeah, and now this time, the Gengar will be attacking before the Dragapult this time, so you can't even catch it in a sneaky way this turn without swapping it out.
Absolutely. Very, very interesting. The Tinkaton, the final Pokemon here from Joey. The mold will be broken. Not sure how much that's going to affect this particular matchup, as I don't believe that makes you immune to Spicy Spray. But we'll have to see here. How will Joey navigate this one? Another Phantom Force will also knock out the Altaria, putting him down to his final 2 Pokemon. So it's going to be interesting to see.
It could allow him to use Thunder Wave against the other Pokemon. I think might also be able to use any stat dropping moves if this Dragapult is clear body, but
That it would. We see the double up into the Jolteon, the Fake Out plus Sludge Bomb, landing the poison. Phantom Force, however, will come out, and that will be a one-hit knockout on Gengar to the surprise of absolutely nobody.
such a strong move, super effective. Gengar not exactly known for its bulk. And we're down to the last 2, right? Tinkaton,
Yep.
Altaria. Let's see.
Tinkaton, Altaria. Yeah, strange bedfellows indeed, but the speed advantage, at least against the Dragapult, is on the side of the Altaria, so it'll be up to Jolteon to keep its partner safe. You have to think Altaria or Tinkaton both could be threatening to take out this Dragapult before it's able to close the game out with another Phantom Force. But then you still have to get through the Scovillain, you still have that unrevealed 4th Pokemon. So the odds are definitely stacked against Joey here in game number 1.
Yeah, and the Jolteon's just going to outspeed and do good amount of damage to one or both mons. Both mons are very bulky, so the Jolteon probably won't kill either unless it's a crazy attack move, but just going for the Electro Web, trying to get some speed control down and get this Dragapult a little bit faster than either mon. But the Hurricane's going to come out. That's not going to be very effective.
Not very effective, nor dealing very much damage into that Jolteon. Play rough, not enough to claim the Dragapult either. So we do, however, see the attack drop, so that may come into play on this following Phantom Force. But with the chip from the Electro Web, I'm pretty sure that a Phantom Force will be more than enough to finish off this Altaria.
Yeah, the Jolteon could, I mean, they could protect past the Jolteon, but then you still take a Phantom Force for nothing. The Jolteon is going to get a free attack off into the Altaria, taking it out.
Yep, Altaria, not long for this one to play rough, will claim a KO. So not a clean 4-0 sweep, but this Phantom Force still going to do quite a bit of damage, taking Tinkaton down to 37%. And so now Austin might get out of game number 1 without even having to reveal his 4th Pokemon. You have to think with the Pokemon here, he could be the Passimian or the Azu in the back. But Scovillain plus Dragapult, even with that Iron Ball trickery, will probably be enough to clean up Tinkaton here.
For sure, and I think you really want this information, but there's just no way to get it. Well, oh yeah, you're not living a flamethrower at this point.
Almost certainly not. There's no Assault Vest in the game. Even an uninvested Scovillain, more than enough to pick up the Tinkaton with that super effective move. So a KO has been given over, I suppose. A little bit of question and efficiency there on Austin's side. Perhaps the Dragapult just didn't have access to a Protect. But that will be the end of game number 1, and Austin Choi taking game 1. We'll have to see how our trainers are able to adapt going into game number 2.
Yeah, I think the only way you're gonna get that information is if that Tinkaton had an Akaberry, but unfortunately that was not the case, and Austin Choi goes up 1 game.
Yes, indeed. We will have to see here in game number 2 what adaptations are available. Of course, perhaps on Joey's side, a little hesitant to bring the Lucario into this one, facing off against that Scovillain, especially if you're running a physical set. That Spicy Extract could be quite problematic to deal with. I think it's why we saw so much of the Hurricane from the Altaria. Is a method to potentially clear that Pokemon, and certainly if your Altaria is burned, I mean, that's pretty trivial.
I'm also like not seeing terribly many avenues for the Blastoise to come in, so that Mon is probably a dead slot. You've already got 2 other Mons that can fake out for you. You're not really hitting Scovillain or the Dragapult for super effective, and most definitely not the Azumarill either.
Yeah, not good into the Azu, not really good into the Jolteon either, between the super effective Thunderbolt and the speed disparity. Pretty hard for Blastoise to make tracks against most of this team. This will be interesting to see. Does Joey switch up the Mega Evolution? That may just be the only avenue of adaptation that he has at his disposal. Or is there ever a universe where perhaps you bring both? I mean, both these Pokemon certainly capable of operating and in their base form, but definitely not as threatening. It'll be interesting to see if maybe that's an adaptation he looks for.
Alright, we're about to get into game number 2. Let's see what the leads are here. I can't imagine... The Gengar might come out, but it's kind of a tough sell in the lead. But you do need to get that Mega off. Sorry, stuck in Scarlet Violet over here. We got Tinkaton Altaria.
Tinkaton Altaria, indeed. A very interesting one here. We have seen the Hurricane. That does threaten quite a bit of damage into the Scovillain. Tinkaton does have the Play Rough into that Dragapult, but we know the Play Rough, not a one-hit KO. We know the Dragapult has at least access to Light Screen to help keep the Scovillain safe here. So it's going to be interesting. Can Joey find a way to break this lead from Austin?
Yeah, this is a very defensive team. It's hard to see what they're gonna go for without just nuking with a Play Rough and maybe going for a Dragon type move, but instantly a switch out from the Dragapult into the Musharna.
Very interesting. So Austin revealing a slower mode to the team for sure. It will just be the Mega Scovillain here. We'll have to see. Does it go for a Protect? It's going to be the Draco Meteor reveal from Altaria into the Musharna. And that is the most whelming Draco Meteor I've ever seen.
I am honestly even underwhelmed, personally. There's a Thunder Wave into the Scovillain.
So Scovillain, paralyzed, will be able to move. Tinkaton is EV'd to survive the flamethrower, though. No burn, so Tinkaton will be around for one more turn.
Also, notably electing to go for instant Mega rather than trying to get a Moody Boost probably doesn't want that special attack to be or speed to be dropped without getting any benefit from it.
Absolutely, but a safe and consistent play here, and Austin will be rewarded as well if he gets Trick Room up, because now that paralysis dropping the Scovillain speed, and I believe it's now only a 1 in 8 chance of the full para. As we do see a switch up, the Lucario will be coming in for the Altaria, and it's a skill swap from the Tinkaton. So, Scovillain now breaking the mold, and Tinkaton now is going to be the spicy one.
Yeah, this is a cheeky play, but I think ultimately... Ooh, that's a lot of damage.
Psychic on the switch. Musharna is quite an offensive
Burning
Pokemon.
Jealousy,
And the
both-
Burning Jealousy board wipe as well. And of course,
Nope.
Scovillain. Yeah, also a fire type and paralyzed, so 2 reasons to not be affected by the opposing Spicy Spray.
I mean, yeah, that's Mega Lucario just gone right there. And with the Blastoise coming out, there's no Gengar. There's not much damage left.
There's not much damage left. There's no Mega Evolution available. Of course, this is the base Blastoise. And Musharna, deceptively high special attack, but I think the one thing that this Pokemon has been known for throughout the years is the bulk. So you have to think that the Blastoise, even with access to something like a full power Water Spout here, will really struggle to pick up a knockout, even with the help from this Altaria.
Yeah, like, what can you even do at this point to break through it? Like, click Parasong and get your 2 kills? Can't even do that. They'll switch out. You gotta fake out onto the Musharna, stop it from moving for one more turn. Rage Powder, so nothing really being accomplished on Austin's side, and we got a raw Hurricane that gets avoided. A little
That
bit
is
unlucky there.
pretty much the most nothing burger turn you can have in this situation. A little bit of chip onto the Musharna, but I think that's still well outside of Water Spout range, as it will be one more Rage Powder. Can Altaria connect on a Hurricane here? It will! Will this do more damage than that Draco Meteor?
I would assume so.
It does do more damage than the Draco Meteor, but it does land the Confusion. Musharna outrunning the Blastoise?
It's just a really slow
It's the
Blastoise?
Mirror Coat. Interesting choice. So Mirror Coat
Huh.
causing the Blastoise to move slower than the Musharna, redirecting that damage into the Scovillain for the KO. But now the plot thickens as Austin reveals it's actually the Jolteon 4th. So bluffing Trick Room, but perhaps instead just choosing to go, foot on the gas here.
And the Jolteon will probably just take the kill onto the Blastoise here. Can't even mirror coat it if you live with an electric resist berry.
Yeah.
Probably?
Altaria with 2 hits in a row with the Hurricane and 2 Confusions. Helping hand boosted Thunderbolt into that Walkenberry.
We'll find out.
Blastoise actually takes it pretty well, hanging on at 30% here. So if the Mirror Coat does come out, and that's going to knock out the Jolteon in 1 hit. So no Mega Evolution, no problem for the moment. Musharna is quite confused by that Hurricane hit. Dragapult, though, there's no Iron Ball on it this game. It will be the fastest Pokemon. It does have access to Dragon Darts, which will hit this Altaria for super effective damage if Austin has elected to bring that. And Mirror Coat, no help against a physical set. So it'll be very interesting to see what our trainers lock into in these final turns of game number 2.
Huge overcommit by Austin there. So the interesting thing, well, first we got an ally switch.
The plot thickens with the ally switch.
Hold on.
But it's a Hurricane from the Altaria, outspeeding Dragapult. I think any suspicions you had about it being scarfed have been confirmed at this point. But it lands the hit, it lands the Confusion. Dragapult does get the Phantom Force off.
Alright, let's see what happens here.
Ice Beam
goes
going
into the
in-
pulse slot.
That is absolutely wild. So we'll have to see here what is going to be the targeting from this Dragapult. Phantom Force probably enough to pick up a 30% Blastoise, and it'll just be up to Altaria then at that point if Blastoise goes down. The plot, oh my gosh, this is getting so close here at the end. Another Hurricane into the Musharna, 22%.
Yeah, I think you have to stop Musharna from clicking Trick Room here.
Phantom Force comes out, will be enough to fell the
Confusion.
Blastoise. Breaking through the confusion, as you said, too. Yeah, so Musharna also snapping out of the confusion, and it will set up the Trick Room. So that should just about do it here. Altaria going to really be pressed to find targets here. One more Hurricane into Musharna may be enough to finish it off. But Dragapult's going to be able to keep itself safe with that Phantom Force, and you have to tank a Psychic before Musharna takes its leave of the field.
Yeah, I think that Musharna might be able. I don't remember what how healthy it was previously, but the Psychic is going to do 38%. It's about enough to take it down after the next Phantom Force. But let's see if that targeting is good. That targeting is correct.
Musharna
And the
does go
Musharna
down.
will go down.
And Dragapult, I believe, did just over 50%. I believe it did 52% with that Phantom Force in the previous game. We saw that the Hurricane did 48 to Dragapult. So this final turn might come down to some damage rolls. Phantom Force into the Altaria. It hangs on at 11%.
That's so close.
But the Hurricane misses!
Oh no!
The Heartbreak.
I think that'll seal it.
That should just about do it. 2 turns of Trick Room. Dragapult will be able to slip back into the shadows with this Phantom Force. Altaria, nothing to Hurricane. Its Hurricanes are out over open ocean. And now, you don't even have to click buttons if you're Austin. It's just going to do it. Yeah, the Phantom Force is just going to go off. Bonk. Altaria, the Golden Goose.
By doing nothing. He did something previously, but...
Yeah, the Golden Goose, Altaria, so close to running that one back. But alas, not quite enough for Joey. Overcoming the odds, though, punishing Austin after what looked like such a commanding early game position. Blastoise doing so much there in that mid game, but that's what happens when you gamble on moves with that 70% accuracy. Sometimes it just doesn't pay off for you.
Yeah, it was a huge overcommit by Austin to go for that Helping Hand and Thunderbolt. I think that potentially the Jolteon could have just run away with the game, because if you Mirror Coat, it does reflect the damage of the last move used. So if Musharna just clicked Psychic into that Blastoise, it would take the Psychic's damage into account rather than the Thunderbolt damage. Granted, the Thunderbolt damage did get halved by the Walkenberry, but
yeah,
still something.
A lot of interesting interactions there for sure. But we are joined by our winner, Austin. Congratulations on climbing to 4-1 on the season, and what was definitely an exciting 2-game set, to be sure.
Yeah, definitely. I am like so stressed right now because game one wasn't perfect, but it was clean enough. Game two, as soon as I got the double KO, I was like very excited. But then I think I kind of flubbed the end game a little bit. I was running some damage calcs, and I heard you talking about the Walkenberry just as I popped in. Yeah, that really threw things for a loop because that was Scarf Altaria. Definitely, it's safer for me to just click webs since my Jolteon is Timid Max and their Altaria is Modest Scarf, so my Jolteon actually still outspeeds. So I can webs put the Altaria slower than the Dragapult, and then also not take a full powered Mirror Coat to the face. I just said a lot of words, just coming straight in. My bad. Lots on my mind right now, I think you can tell.
Absolutely. I mean, an absolutely hectic set and an absolutely insane game too. Yeah, let's just stay on the topic at hand though. I mean, such a commanding beginning to it, even into game number 2, and suddenly it gets all flipped on its head by Walkenberry Mirror Coat Blastoise. What was going through your mind, after Joey was able to even up that Pokemon count and really put you back on the back foot?
I still thought it was okay because, like, knowing that the Altaria scarfed is scarfed into Hurricane, so he has to hit Hurricanes, and he probably needs confusion hacks in order to win too. So the odds are definitely in my favor, but it's never a position you want to be in, you know, where you think you have like a relatively safe way out, and then draft tech comes in, and then suddenly the Pokemon you thought couldn't get KO'd is KO'd, right? So I do regret going for webs, or sorry, not going for webs. In hindsight, but hindsight's 2020 after seeing the Wackenberry. So I wasn't worried that I would lose the game until I saw the Dragapult got confused. At that point, I'm like, oh, there's a possibility here. Hurricane rolls were actually, they were kind of spooky too. I don't know how much the percentages really showed for you, but I think Hurricane was a roll to KO the Musharna at the very end. If the Hurricane had hit the Dragapult after it popped out of Phantom Force in Trick Room against Altaria, that also would have been a roll to KO as well. So lots of RNG potential in that game 2 endgame.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, Austin Lay, what would you any questions you have for your counterpart?
Yeah. What was your like thought process behind bringing like your leads in both of the games? Like, what were you expecting them to bring?
Right. So I specifically was worried about Gengar plus Tink lead. And so the thought process behind leading Dragapult plus Scovillain is so I am, you saw that there was the light clay on the Dragapult, so I do have double screens. But if you were to lead Gengar plus Tink, the plan is to Phantom Force into the Gengar, do something with the Scovillain, probably protect it, choose whether to gamble on Moody or not, just protect Mega or not Mega. Then turn 2, the Gengar's either forced to switch out on the Phantom Force. Jobis actually did run Substitute one week. I was kind of thinking maybe he would be crazy and click Sub, and then I was running Infiltrator on the Dragapult, so I'd kill him through the Sub. That would have been funny. But I would either force the Gengar out or take the KO, and then on the second turn I could Rage Powder, take the Tinkaton attack away from the Dragapult, and then burn it on the way in too. So that's why I was comfortable leading Dragapult plus Scovillain both games. Because if he leads the Gengar plus the Tink, I have like a very strong line into it. And if he leads anything else, then I can start setting screens and then slow the game down and figure out what I want to do from there. Oh, but on that topic, actually, game 2, when he leads Tink plus Altaria, at this point, I think, and I lead the same, I think it's pretty obvious that what he wants to do is something akin to like a Draco, the Dragapult, since he's Scarf, and then like fake out the Scovillain to take away the Rage Powder. Maybe I got a little bit too scared actually, because come to think of it, my Dragapult's faster than my Jolteon. So since my Jolteon's faster than the Altaria, the Dragapult's faster than it too. I probably could have. I had some other plays. I thought I was forced to switch the Dragapult out, but in hindsight, maybe I could have just let it eat some attacks or set up screens or something like that. That would have been okay too, I guess.
Yeah, and interestingly, you swapped into the Musharna, who both got to show off its bulk, but also its damage output. Um, Certainly not the Pokemon I would expect to see alongside the Dragapult and the Jolteon. Talk us through the thought process. Was that also the, I mean, obviously you don't have to tell us right this second, but was Musharna the unrevealed fourth in game 1 as well, or?
It was, yeah.
Ooh, spicy.
I just ran the same for both games. The Azu, I thought, because I actually dropped Play Rough this week for Superpower on the Azu, for the Glaceon and the Lucario. So the Azu actually wasn't as good into Blastoise and Altaria as you might think, because I don't have any good damage into him. And the Passimian was actually Choice Scarf as well, but Adamant Choice Scarf, because I kind of expected a modest Gengar. And we saw my Jolteon outspeed the Gengar once, so I think it's fair to assume that the Gengar on Jobis' side was modest. I talked about it in my POV in the VOD, but basically both of us have an 80 base speed Pokemon with a Choice Scarf and a base 130 Pokemon. And the 80 base speed Pokemon, it turns out, you need to be a speed boosting nature in order to outspeed the speed boosting 130s. I was a speed boosting Jolteon and he was a modest Scarf Altaria, so my Jolteon outsped. My Passimian was Adamant max speed, so it would have speed tied as Altaria, which is why I didn't want to bring it. I didn't want to gamble on that. But if he did have the Gengar, if his Gengar's modest, then at least my Passimian is safer to bring into his Gengar than his Altaria is to bring into my Jolteon. There's this very weird, very specific situation going on between them, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the mathematics of the speed tiers definitely coming into play in this one. And yeah, I mean, it was absolutely a thrilling set from start to finish, though. From game number 1 into game number 2, definitely got the blood pumping, I will say. I don't know, Austin, anything you have for also Austin before we get hopping into our third game?
Nothing except love your name, man.
Oh, thank you. You've got a pretty sick name too. Who gave it to
No one.
you? Nice.
All right, well,
Wonderful, wonderful.
Austin, once again, congratulations on the win. Congratulations on the 4-1. It's a shame you have one small black spot on your record. I wonder how that happened,
Yeah,
but
whose fault could that have been?
I have no idea. We'll blame it on the universe, but we will be getting into the Battle of Ohio, as it's been dubbed. The two Ohio natives, Brian Pattison and Ryan Reagan, will be taking on each other here in just a moment. And I believe I am actually trading an Austin for an Austin. Austin Choi joining me for this third cast, I believe? Question mark?
Hello. Yep,
Yeah, if I stayed, it would have been too much Ohio. So
That's
that's
true.
true.
There's
That's true.
only so much Ohio that the stream can take. Well, Austin, thank you for joining me, and Austin, thank you for joining me. Let's go ahead and get into a preview here of this matchup here.
I'm gonna say bye to my stream real quick. Bye my stream. Bye bye. You should go to hold on. Let me go to IndieVGC. Everyone go there. Okay, I don't know how to do raids from YouTube to Twitch, but everybody go to the IndieVGC stream too. All right, thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that or not. I am very inept at streaming, but we do have a matchup of two very interesting teams here. Of course, BPAT claiming his first win last week, climbing to 1-3 with the Cleveland Browts, and Ryan and the Columbus Mew sitting at a very healthy 2-2, I believe, sitting just inside the playoff picture window on that side of the league. So an interesting matchup for sure, with some potential for future playoff matches. We'll have to get into these rosters before I continue blabbering on. There we go. So BPAT, of course, Austin, you can take it away. There's a lot to chat about on this roster. I'm sure you've looked at it plenty of times at this point.
Yeah, I think there's lots of fun stuff here. This is obviously BPAT here, being one of the two rain teams, or I guess for like primary rain teams in the league. Given that there's Politoed and there's Pelipper, so this is the Politoed rain team. Obviously, you're pretty happy to be the rain team that grabs the Archaludon as well. And there's also even a secondary weather mode with the Abomasnow on the team as well. And so I think. Obviously, when you look at BPAT's team, you're probably single track minded. How do I stop the rain mode? How do I stop the rain mode? But there's also a few other guys on the team that you might need to worry about. For instance, Mega Greninja actually famously actually doesn't tend to run water moves that much. Oftentimes will actually just run Blizzard on snow teams with that Protean ability letting you actually get stab on those Blizzards. So we might see some snow action from the team as well. And Mega Absol, not generally thought of to be a great mega, but as a low tier value pick, might actually be able to pressure a lot of strong dark type damage, especially even if speed control goes the other way, you have very strong sucker punches that you can throw off regardless of the speed interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you can get a mega evolution at the bottom of the draft board, that's certainly got to be good value for you. Of course, lots of other utility as well. We've seen Tailwind from that Gliscor. We've seen Snow plus Veil from the Abomasnow, Intimidate twofold between the Tauros and the Arbok. But the Arbok also with access to Glare, so an extra form of speed control there. Meanwhile, on the side of Ryan, this is an eclectic bunch to say the least.
Yeah, eclectic is certainly a way to put it. I don't think we really see any of these Pokemon in like standard competitive play right now, except for that Mega Aerodactyl. Clefable has been good in the past, obviously, but not so much in the current regulations. But I think as bulky fairy type is never going to be bad. You've also got that Drampa to support it, so you've got that fairy dragon, a nice synergy. And then if you're worried about opposing steel types, that's where you've got the Typhlosion, the Crocodile, the Golurk, the Hisui, and Decidueye. So this, I think, more so than Brian's team, looks like a collection of Pokemon, more so than like very obvious strategies sticking out, like weather-based strategies that Brian has. But I think none of these Pokemon are so bad, except for maybe the Mr. Rhyme, sorry, that you can't see them putting in some amount of work if they're supported properly.
Absolutely. And we are going to go ahead and get into team preview here for game number 1. So interestingly note, double megas here for Ryan, along with the Decidueye and the Typhlosion, the Mr. Rhyme and the Clefable. Over on Brian's side, it's double megas as well. Greninja and Absol, of course the Archelodon and the aforementioned Politoed, and joined by Gliscor and Tauros. Very interesting.
I think the Gliscor here is actually set to do pretty well. That Mega Aerodactyl, I guess, can carry Ice Fang for it. Oh, but we're just, okay, not even giving me enough time to talk about it, the Gliscor. But basically, the Gliscor, I think, as long as you can get rid of potential Ice-type coverage from the Aerodactyl, or I guess the Mr. Rhyme, is going to be doing pretty well. But we actually see both of them appear in front of the Gliscor immediately. This Gliscor, for as much as I was about to talk it up, probably not in a fantastic position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be relying on its partner, the Absol, to protect it here. Be interesting to see if that Pokemon does go for its Mega Evolution or if that's withheld. Going to be interesting to see. But if you're on Brian's side, if you have that Archelodon lurking in the back, it could be a nice defensive pivot here in on these Pokemon, especially the Aerodactyl, not a Pokemon that'll deal a lot of damage into that bulky Steel type.
Yeah, we are going to start the game off with this Mega Aerodactyl immediately. No switches from the side of Brian, even though Archelodon probably would have wanted to switch in on this board. Maybe this is going to tell us that we don't have Archelodon in the back. As we see the Mega from the Absol, I don't think there's any reason to expect otherwise, but this probably tells us Greninja isn't in the back for Brian. We're going to have to see how the turn plays out, as the Aerodactyl will be able to get the first... No, it's the fake out from the Mr. Rhyme right into the Gliscor. Gliscor not scared of Ice-type moves from the Mr. Rhyme whatsoever, as Tailwind from the Aerodactyl gets set.
Absolutely. Tailwind will be shifting the speed even further into Ryan's favor. The knockoff into the Mr. Rhyme, revealing Focus Sash. So will be sticking around for at least one more turn to threaten something like that Freeze Dry. And of course, Gliscor, just like the Cleveland Browns, not moving very much on this opening turn.
That's terrible. That's so sad. But yeah, the Gliscor taking the fake out, not revealing anything. Well, I guess there's no Toxic Orb in this game. I'm too old pilled. But at this point, I think we might actually see the Absol like Sucker Punch come to fruition here, as we were talking about during team preview. Given that this Mr. Rhyme definitely is in range of any sort of priority move right now. The Gliscor maybe not super happy to be staring down that Mr. Rhyme, so I can see something like the Archelodon switching in, maybe even the Politoed switching in for that Gliscor. But either way, you're looking at big damage from this Tough Claws boosted Aerodactyl. As we just see a dual Wing Beat into the Absol's so frail, almost dropping to that dual Wing Beat outright. That's a neutral hit.
Yeah, I think more interestingly, it's going to hang on. The Freeze Dry will come out. No chance Gliscor survives that hit, as it will go down. Not a one-hit knockout because of the fake out, but I think it probably would have been regardless. And it's just going to be a knockoff from the Absol here to confirm the KO onto Mr. Rhyme. A trade of Pokemon, but I think Ryan definitely getting the better end of that trade at the end of the day.
Right. Not only are the like the Pokemon score is even, but the Absol is almost down, and Ryan has Tailwind up on his side of the field, and so I think there's very little that BPAC can do. Well, I guess we'll have to see what the next revealed Pokemon is, but Ryan's really in the driver's seat right now, has his foot on the gas, and it's up to Brian to find an answer. So we do see the Politoed come out from the side of Brian, and the Typhlosion revealed. So the Typhlosion, maybe not super happy to have his Fire-type moves turned, the damage from them reduced by the rain from the Politoed. But even still, any Fire-type move is going to be able to take a KO on this Absol right now. So even if you're launching off like weak Eruptions, that's probably okay for the sake of the Absol. And we do see Sunny Day from the Aerodactyl.
Sunny Day from the
about to go
Aerodactyl.
in.
And it will be that Eruption from the Typhlosion. Massive damage coming out. That's quite a lot of damage into a bulky Politoed from a resisted hit.
Right.
Of course, I think that Eruption would have KO'd Absol from just about any range, but we will see the Muddy Water in retaliation, not doing too much damage because of the harsh sunlight, though. Double accuracy drop, though. Absolutely brutal news for Aerodactyl, who already spends a lot of money at the optometrist to begin with. We'll have to see. Of course, Archelodon does not love being in the harsh sunlight, does not love staring down a fire type like this Typhlosion, although certainly probably thankful it's not a Charizard, but still not the best board to be trapped on with your final two Pokemon.
Right, definitely. I can see, I mean, minus the accuracy drops, I think the Typhlosion is just threatening really big fire-type damage into the Archelodon. Maybe Ryan is tempted to switch one of his Pokemon out and reveal the last one in order to reset the accuracy drops, but if you do that twice, because you don't have two Pokemon here, you have to do it two separate times. By the time you do that, your Tailwind will expire. So we do see Umbrella, the Hisuian Decidueye revealed as the final Pokemon for Ryan, as we do just have an Eruption launched off. How much will this do?
That's a lot of damage. Archelodon missing Assault Vest more and more every single day. Stamina boost probably not going to be too relevant, and it's going to be the Flash Cannon into the Decidueye, not even getting it below 50%. And the Icy Wind miss on top of it. So Politoed, accuracy issues on both sides of the board now.
Right, how ironic that we got the accuracy drops on the Typhlosion, hits both of his moves, and the Politoed can't connect its 95% Icy Wind. Would have been really nice to have into that Decidueye too, especially now that the Tailwind has expired. It possibly would have let this Politoed outspeed the Decidueye, and actually would have put it into chip range for another Flash Cannon from the Archelodon. So quite a crucial Icy Wind miss, actually. Very impactful, more so than Icy Wind misses typically can be.
Absolutely, and you have to wonder how much that accuracy drop played into Ryan's decision making. Perhaps having access to something like the Heat Wave or the Overheat on that Typhlosion, but opting for the slightly reduced power Eruption rather than miss an accuracy, or rather more inaccurate Fire type move, I would say. We will just see.
We do just see another Eruption is enough for the Archelodon, and
Yep.
this Politoed at 23%. Even facing down a Typhlosion, it's in the sun, it's low on health. I really don't see any way for the Politoed to get out of his as it. It just bounces off the Protect the Icy Wind. So the Decidueye revealing, not Choice Scarf. I guess that's a little bit of information that Brian might be able to use next game.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw the Typhlosion move after the Aerodactyl, so it's at least possible that that's not the Choice Scarf slot either, but we've only seen the Eruption. It'll be interesting to see if you're Ryan. I think you can just click Eruption one more time to at least bluff that, as we'll actually get more than one more turn with Politoed protecting here. Leaf Blade revealed, to absolutely nobody's surprise.
And Eruption on the Typhlosion. Typhlosion just has been clicking Eruption. I wonder if that means that's where the Choice Scarf is.
You
At this
certainly,
point.
yeah, you certainly could stat train your Typhlosion with a Choice Scarf to still underspeed your Aerodactyl, but outspeed just about everything on Brian's side, except for probably that Mega Greninja, which does get pretty close to Mega Aerodactyl's speed tier, does outspeed base form Aerodactyl, but that's speculation for game number 2, as the Leaf Blade landing the cheeky critical hit, and Politoed will be KO'd. And that will be a win for Ryan in game number 1.
Right. I think this is a pretty dominant game. It wasn't necessarily particularly fast, like the game didn't end in only 4 or 5 turns or anything like that. But after turn 1, you set up the Tailwind. Turn 2, you essentially get a double KO, with the Absol being taken down to only 7%. I think there's very little that Brian was able to do to stop the bleeding of the offensive pressure that Ryan was able to maintain with the speed control. So even though Tailwind expires and you don't end the game in Tailwind proper, you're left in such a good position that I think Brian really needs to be thinking about some potential adjustments for game 2. So speaking of, what do you think that Brian might want to do this game?
Yeah, I think in game number 2, you need to be a little bit more conscious of the damage output placed against you, right? We saw Gliscor go down to that Freeze Dry, and certainly something like the Archelodon, I mean, doesn't take it super well, obviously, but would have taken it better than Gliscor, surely. You have to wonder as well, right, the Fire type being revealed along with the 2 physical attackers, if maybe Paldean Tauros Blaze Breed, TM, looks a little bit more appealing, or perhaps you opt for your other Mega Evolution, right? Mega Greninja, able to get pretty good speed interactions, does have a wide move pool. There's lots of options at the disposal of Brian. It's going to depend on what he's trained these Pokemon to do. Meanwhile, on the side of Ryan, though, I don't really think you need to change anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I think Ryan really probably doesn't have much to worry about repeating the same game plan because of how dominant it was, and surely this Aerodactyl has some other attacking moves or some other tricks up its sleeve that it might be able to do, even if the Sunny Day game plan doesn't shake itself out. In fact, I kind of wonder even if you need to set up Tailwind, because we saw that most of uh, Ryan's team was faster than most of Brian's team, but we actually do see the adjustment to the Clefable lead as Brian makes the double Pokemon adjustment to Greninja and that Blaze-Bleed Tauros you were talking about.
Yeah, so very interesting. The Intimidate not going to find any target of note. I mean, it will reduce the fake out damage, I suppose. So a minor consolation for that game 1 to game 2 adjustment. But Greninja potentially under a bit of threat from a Freeze Dry, from a Moonblast. We'll have to see if that Protean ability comes into play here in order to keep it safe from these two Pokemon. But if you're Tauros, I mean, you take neutral from a Moonblast, but Mr. Rhyme, if it's got any sort of Psychic type coverage, you may face the same fate as your buddy the Gliscor did last game.
Yeah, I think this Greninja probably is going to have to do a little bit of dancing around with that Protean ability, but we do see the Mega Evolution right off the bat, so you only get one chance at changing your type right now. Let's hope that Brian can make good use of it in the face of these two Pokemon, but perhaps likely that the Mr. Rhymes Fake Out is just going to go into the Tauros to stop the Fire type attacks from threatening it, as we do see it go there. Miles Garrett takes the flinch, and Dark Pulse Protean into the Dark type. Not actually that helpful in front of this Clefable, as the Mr. Rhyme is brought down to its sash.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the Clefable no follow me. So will it be putting on the offensive pressure? It's going to be the Calm Mind reveal. So very interesting. Clefable gaining quite a bit of bulk and also some offensive pressure.
Right, I think this is actually, even though more damage is dealt to Ryan's side, I think Ryan, you're pretty happy with this turn. This Greninja can no longer threaten the Clefable pretty much with anything, because you've lost stab on everything except for Dark-type moves, which the Clefable, especially at +1, is bound to eat up. So this Paldean Tauros it really has a lot of pressure on it to deal with this Clefable, at least to some degree. You probably want to be sending out maybe a Flare Blitz, that's probably a 2-hit KO, and then leave it for pickings for something in the back later, like that Archaludon. But we do see the Greninja decide to withdraw this turn. Who will it be? The Archaludon actually, speak of the devil, there he comes.
Yeah, definitely not the most ideal board state, but it could be one to take advantage of. Clefable just going to protect, going to keep itself safe from the Flare Blitz. We'll have to see, how does Mr. Rhyme retaliate? It's going to be the Psychic. And Tauros, just like Gliscor, goes down. It's a one-hit knockout for the tap dancing comedian. Somebody call Scraw and let him know that his boy is popping off in the Draft League match. We'll have to see, though. One interesting thing, Greninja does have good offensive stats on both sides of the board and does gain access to a favorite move of a few of us here in the indie scene in the form of the Funky Gunky.
Funky Gunky.
There is always the chance that you do have a poison type move on this Greninja that can remove this Clefable. But we will have to see, of course. Special Flash Cannon from Archelodon will hit for super effective damage, but Archelodon already has enough trouble clearing a Clefable. A +1 special defense boost certainly will not be doing it any favors.
Right. At the very least, if anything Brian's got going for him is speed advantage on this turn. The Clefable did just protect. If you do have the Funky Gunky on the Greninja, this is the time to reveal it. And the Archaludon does outspeed the Mr. Rhyme as well, and so you can get a Flash Cannon into that slot, but we do see it switch out in favor of that Decidueye, which we saw not actually taking a 2-hit KO from this Flash Cannon, so we'll have to see how the turn plays out. As the Archaludon actually gets scared, gets out of there as well, as Mayfield the Politoed returns to the field. So no Gliscor, no Absol this game. I think that's not entirely a surprise. As we see the Hydro Pump Protean into the Water type, how much will it do?
It's going
Rain
to be
boosted,
quite a bit of damage. Just over 50% into Clefable. But the Draining Kiss coming out, 70% of the Politoed. We'll have to see how much HP this restores. Up to 72 Clefable, well outside of the KO range of that Hydro Pump. The leftovers on the Politoed, probably not enough here. And Decidueye is really kind of just set up perfectly. You've got two grass weeks in front of you, and Archelodon in the back that sure could switch in to take that Leaf Blade. But you have to think there's a triple arrows or a close combat just waiting to hit that Archelodon.
Right, certainly. I think, though, Unfortunately, you're not able to do both on the same turn to kind of cover a switch, Leaf Blade and Triple Arrows. You kind of have to pick one. And so, knowing that either of these slots reasonably could switch into the Archalon, if you're Ryan, you might feel like you need to make a call. But honestly, this Clefable probably is just sitting here, that cute little face of his, not actually feeling like it's under that much pressure right now. And so we see the Greninja decide to take leave into the Archaludon and the Protect from the Politoed. So we'll have to see if the Decidueye makes that Leaf Blade or Fighting type attack call.
It will be the Leaf Blade into the Archaludon, quad resisted, not going to do a lot of damage, and will pass on the stamina boost. So a small consolation for the Archaludon, but the Draining Kiss threat into that Politoed slot is going to make it very, very difficult to pivot in the Greninja safely here.
Right, I think this Greninja, when it switches in, it will have regained its Water and Dark typing. So as you mentioned, probably doesn't want to switch in, so it's probably not going to be able to return to the battle until one of either the Politoed or the Archaludon have fainted. At this point, also, you know, Arch is in rain, you think it can start E-shotting up, but this Clefable is very likely to be the Unaware ability. Really doesn't care about those stat boosts from the Archaludon at all. Will be healing a lot of damage from the Draining Kiss. I really think Clefable can just sit here and click Draining Kiss for the rest of the game.
We'll have to see. It's going to be the Helping Hand coming out from Politoed, going to give as much assistance to the Archaludon as possible to protect from the Clefable. So, does Brian get the targeting right? It's actually the Decidueye outspeeding the Archaludon, but the Chople Berry going to keep it alive in the face of this triple arrow onslaught as it lands a critical hit. Interesting. The plot does thicken.
Right. Interesting to see that the critical hit damage, actually, it's about a KO. Through the Chople Berry, through that Protect, meaning that the Archaludon actually, without the Chople Berry, might actually be able to take one of those triple arrows. But we see the Electro Shot bounce off the Clefable. You do get that +1 special attack. It'll be useful against the Decidueye, not so much against the Clefable. And so at this point, I think probably your way out of this Clefable, if you want to do it this turn, you just have to send a Flash Cannon and pray that you get a crit.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, both of these Pokemon under a lot of pressure, and Clefable with that Draining Kiss, it could just stall this one out. We will see the triple arrows coming out. Archaludon does survive it. Do we see one of those secondary effects activate? We see the stamina come out, but Archaludon will flinch. The Moonblast, we'll see how much this does to Politoed. Won't be enough to KO, certainly, as it hangs on at 38%. The Icy Wind is going to be nice. Will slow down the Decidueye and actually give Archaludon a chance to interact with this match. So you have to wonder, how different does this board look if Archaludon protects on that turn?
Right, protects or at least doesn't flinch. We would have gotten some pretty strong attack off, especially if you went into the Decidueye, you're at +1. But this is the last turn of rain as well, so there is a chance that maybe Brian feels pressure to switch his Politoed out, but that means the Greninja comes in, and surely it's taking a big Fairy type move. A Clefable sitting here really just like a budget Floette. Clicking Calm Mind and Strong Fairy moves, with the Draining Kiss recovery making it nigh unkillable in the face of Brian's choice of Pokemon, as the Mr. Rime decides to hit the field, and the Helping Hand from the Politoed into the Archaludon. What'll it be?
Yeah, a Flash Cannon into Clefable will do nothing, as Clefable just protects here. So Archaludon, maybe you're sending damage. You are into the Mr. Rime. It will be enough to pick up a KO at least. A small consolation as you even the Pokemon count. But still, the rain expiring here is especially brutal. No Damp Rock on the Politoed. Your rain turns have been successfully stalled. And now Ryan, with a free switch in, it could be the Decidueye, and it is.
Right, we did see the Decidueye outspeed both of these Pokemon prior. And so at this point, I think if you're really so inclined, you can launch a triple arrows into that Archaludon. It will pick up. If the Greninja switches in, it will pick up. And the Clefable probably can't get the... Well, a Moonblast KO into the Politoed is actually probably pretty reasonable. Draining Kiss wouldn't do it, but Moonblast certainly can. So I don't really see what Brian has to stop triple arrows into the Arch and Moonblast into the Politoed.
Absolutely. We will see those triple arrows come out. Can Archaludon hang on? It cannot. The bridge will fall. Will Politoed follow in quick succession? It's going to actually be the Muddy Water, but it will go wide of Clefable, so no chance for an accuracy drop into that slot. A little bit of chip onto the Decidueye, bringing it down to 71%, but the accuracy drop coming through. Moonblast.
We will see... Yep. The Moonblast into the Politoed. It does take that KO from half.
Is enough to KO. So now it is the Greninja show. You get one chance to Protean and change your typing. Be interesting to see what Brian opts for here. Being under the pressure, super effective Leaf Blade, super effective Moonblast. Does Greninja have a coverage option that can help it out in this situation? Or are we going to see Ryan take our second 2-0 win of the evening?
There is exactly one move I think could do it for the Greninja, which is Sludge Wave. It does get Sludge Wave, and that is super effective on both of these targets here. You would become Poison type, which resists both the Decidueye stabs and the Fairy Moves from the Clefable. So if you've got Sludge Wave, now's the time to bust it out. I guess maybe Blizzard could do it too if you're relying on hitting and freezing, you know? But I think Sludge Wave a little bit more reliable. So we'll see if Brian's got it.
It will just be a Protect from Decidueye, keeping itself safe. Clefable as well, so we will get to see what the Greninja's Protean typing is. It's actually just going to be the Ice Beam here. So the Ice typing going to be advantageous. Well, not even really, because Decidueye is still threatening it with triple arrows now.
Yeah, so at this point, I think you really need to send that Ice Beam out into the Decidueye slot, since that's the guy that's threatening you. That probably is enough to get the KO, so that's +1 for Greninja's KO counter on the season. But at this point, I think Clefable is just launching a Draining Kiss, getting a little bit of health back, and then relying on the last partner to be able to take out that Greninja. Nope, it's just Moonblast. Yep. I don't think this is enough, but...
That's a lot of damage, Greninja, known for its offense, not for its defense. And, I mean, Clefable at this point it may as well be a Terra Fairy Calyrex Shadow Rider. I mean, you're going to really struggle to break through that. But, of course, now with the Ice typing, facing off against the Mega Aerodactyl, this has got to be the worst day of Mega Greninja's life right now. And really, I think just about anything that Ryan had in the back, if he had had the Typhlosion, we'd be in the same situation where Greninja, you know, able to pick up a KO, able to make this a little bit more dignified, but just lacking the offense to break through that Clefable.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, there's nothing really you can do except hope that the Aerodactyl misses every single one of its moves for the rest of time. You have to Ice Beam, crit the Clefable. It's really not looking great for it. So I think Ryan probably on his way to a 3-2 and well, I guess there's one. That's pitiful damage, really.
Yeah, Water Shuriken maybe gets... Yep, it does break 50%. Does get a cheeky critical hit, but you needed it to be a little bit more like Population Bomb to pick up the Aerodactyl. Meanwhile, we actually see the dual Wing Beat opting for the slightly more accurate move, as Mega Arrow will deny Clefable the KO that it worked so hard to almost secure. But yeah, Ryan's going to lock that one up and improve to 3-2 on the season.
Right. I did hear you talk about, you know, after Jessup's match finished earlier, you said how many 3-game sets are we getting tonight? And it looks like the answer so far, just one, as we get Ryan in a pretty dominant 2-0 win over BPAT, improving Ryan's record to 3-2, keeping their playoff hopes alive. And we see our two players congratulating each other. We're going to try and bring Ryan in here for an interview. Hello, Ryan. How are you doing? Hello, hello.
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 Give me 1 second.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
hello.
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 Ryan,
Hello.
welcome to the stream. Congratulations on the King of Ohio.
It feels good. I did a good amount of prep for this week, so I'm happy with how the matchup turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we definitely saw that prep coming through as well. Lots of interesting choices in your team building to go over. We'll start with game number 2, though, and your Clefable doing its best Mega Floette cosplay. Talk us through the decision making in that set before this week.
Yeah, so as some of you guys might know, I'm a big calm-minded Floette enjoyer, but obviously that went first overall. But Clefable, he had only one fairy resist, and it was Arbok, which I thought with my double ground and Mr. Rhyme, I didn't think he was going to bring it this week. So Clefable with it was actually Magic Garden Life Orb, so it wasn't unaware. So if he started boosting with the Archaludon, I was a little scared, but yeah, I I was running Magic Garden Life Orb with the Calm Mind. Even even though it was like +1, it wasn't really doing that much damage, but it was still putting in some work, getting a couple chunks on Keymons. But that was my starting point for this week was actually Calm Mind Clefable.
Very
Yeah, we definitely
interesting.
saw it. Yeah, put in a lot of work. I actually, silly me, was saying, "Oh, yeah, it's unaware Clefable, unaware Clefable." You know, doesn't worry about the arch boost at all throughout the whole set. It turns out I was just wrong, anyways. If I'd known my Clefable calcs better, I could have intuited, "Oh, it's definitely Life Orb." Actually, I would have known that. But with that in mind, actually, I'm going to address the chat somewhat. I did slight talk Mr. Rhyme quite a bit during the intro. It's like, oh, what's that guy? And like Ryan's got a bunch of good guys, and then also like Golurk and Mr. Rhyme. But Mr. Rhyme actually put in a lot of work this week. I think Freeze Dry was a great choice for the Rain team, and the Psychic actually getting the KO on the Tauros was great. So, did you have anything like in particular in mind for Mr. Rhyme, or was he really just there as like a pretty honest, fake out, help you get up, set up, and then go from there kind of Pokemon?
Yeah, I mean, that was his main purpose, was either fake out and Tailwind or fake out and get set up with Clefable. It actually does very well into stuff like the Mega Greninja. So if I click fake out into it on turn 1 and uh, it goes for protect. I had encore on it, but we didn't get to see that. But if I click fake out and then I went for freeze dry, then it picks up the KO after going under tailwind because it was modest nature this week instead of a timid. So
Hmm.
it was here to do big damage, but it was also here to get help my guys set up tailwind and get set up some calm minds.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to go with the simple approach. We saw that fake out Tailwind in game number one, paying off, getting you the early advantages. But what we also saw was the Sunny Day reveal from that Aerodactyl, along with the Typhlosion. And, as someone who's played a few games of Archelodon in my time, there's nothing that Archelodon hates more than seeing harsh sunlight and a fire type with Eruption. So, yeah, was that just something that you saw immediately and was like, oh yeah, that'll be a great counter for the rain team, or was that more of a later addition in your team building?
That one was actually that one was pretty early on. So what my team was a little bit weird in the sense that my Typhlosion was actually slower than uh my Aerodactyl. It was Scarf Typhlosion, but it was one speed point slower than my Mega Aerodactyl. So I could get Sunny Day off, and then I could click Solar Beam to one shot Mega Greninja. I have Eruption for a lot of his other Pokemon, like Abomasnow, and like you said, the Archaludon. But it was actually doing a lot of damage into the resists. As you saw, it did like 38% to the Politoed in game one. So it was I I didn't actually need the solar beam for it. I could just click eruption a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Austin.
The sunny day tech, I mean, definitely not like entirely unexpected, but very very fun to see it work out. Probably just exactly as you drew it up. I think Aerodactyl, you've really like dug deep into its move pool so far this season. Typically, when you think of Aerodactyl, we think of it as like you've got like 6 moves you can choose from, right? Protect, Rock Slide, Dual Wing Beat, Tailwind, Wide Guard, maybe some sort of extra like coverage move or something like that. But you've really shown that Aerodactyl is a lot more flexible than we give it credit for, at least in like constructed formats. But as we look forward to the rest of the season, I mean, you've got a 3-2 start. Not a bad place to be at all for postseason hopes. Have you taken a look at the rest of your schedule? Do you know if there's anything that you're particularly worried about? Any other texts that, or any texts that you've thought about but haven't gotten to use that you think we might be seeing in the future as well?
Yeah, I have looked at the rest of my schedule. Luckily, I am past the all-weather mode of my schedule. I've played 5 weather teams in my first 5 games, so I'm past that point. So I'm looking forward to not seeing only weather. So I can uh, actually bring like Berserk Drampa if I want to bring Drampa. Uh, but yeah, I think there's one tech in particular that I'm looking at for my match next week against Andres, and I'm really excited for it. I'm not gonna spoil anything just yet, but
Of course, yeah.
but it's pretty sick if it goes well. So
Absolutely. Andres, of course, a player that Austin and I both know pretty well at this point, and someone who is absolutely a fiend. So I think you're going to definitely have to dig deep in that one. But we're going to be very excited to see what that looks like. But we are about to get ready here for this fourth of at least four sets tonight. So before we let you go, Ryan, anything you'd like to say to the Draft League fans at home?
uh yeah, I mean shout out to the Columbus Mew organization for putting in the big work today. We're going strong. We're climbing up the rankings, and hopefully we'll get a nice spot for playoffs. And shout out to my lovely girlfriend who supported me all the way. So uh,
Is that your Aerodactyl by chance?
no, it's not my Aerodactyl. I'm not. No, but my Aerodactyl has definitely supported me along the way as well.
That's great. That's good to hear. So with that, we do have another match coming right up right now. And so with that, congratulations again, Ryan, on the pretty decisive victory this week. We'll see you around in the future, and thanks
Yep,
for dropping by.
yep. I hope to be here next week as well.
Alrighty, see ya.
Absolutely. Wow. And so we're just going to be transitioning from game to game to game. We'll go ahead and hop right in with this preview of our fourth game. It's going to be Nick and the Trash Like Trubishes, how adorable, against EJ and the Indianapolis Garchomps. A couple of teams that the records not where they want them to be, but both of these teams have been very feisty and are doing pretty well in terms of at least forcing game threes and getting something out of these losses. So it'll be interesting to see one of these teams perhaps is going to be able to set themselves up for a second half of the season surge, while the other, this set could very well make or break their season depending on how it goes.
Right. I think this is a pretty high stakes match for the both of them. I think it's kind of hard to say because we're not doing exact Swiss pairings, but it's very likely that in order to make the postseason, 6-2 record probably guarantees it. Bar some really crazy scenarios. 5-3s is like looking to be a bubble, and so if either of these players want to make the postseason, they're going to have to win out from here. And unfortunately, one of them is not going to be able to do it this week. So I think we can get on to the team preview. We do have both of our players ready already, and we'll take a look at Nick Lapley and the Trash Like Trubishes to start. JJ, when you're looking at this team, what do you think?
Well, I've had the luxury of looking at this team. I had to face off against Nick in week number one. And so with this roster, I think there's a couple of things that stand out. Nick opting for some more value picks in the Mega Evolution department, of course, with the Mega Chandelure and the Mega Steelix. We all remember the joke from when the abilities got revealed, oh, Mega Chandelure is going to be infiltrating, the 4-4 tables and all of that nonsense. But Mega Steelix, a Pokemon that we have seen have some success, right? And if you look above them in the draft order, Sylveon, Base Dragonite, and Mamoswine are three Pokemon that can really influence a match. And behind them, we know there's at least one Watchog enthusiast in the world. Base form Rotom, I mean, it's a Rotom. Rotom is never going to be a bad Pokemon, even in its base form, although you certainly miss the stats. And Medicham, I mean, it's definitely a Pokemon with a very wide move pool and of course access to that pure power ability. When I faced off against Nick, I talked myself into being absolutely terrified he was going to find a way to set up Trick Room and then skill swap pure power onto the Mega Steelix. So this is definitely a team that could have some tricks up its sleeve. It'll be interesting to see how EJ has prepared for it. As we segue over to EJ's roster, this is actually two players that I've played this season. Of course, on EJ's side, those of you from the Scarlet Violet days will be traumatized to see Annihilate next to Klefki. The screen setter, the Annihilate boosting itself up with Bulk Up and Rage Fist and all of those shenanigans. But I think the thing with EJ's team that stands out is it's got a very, very potent Trick Room mode with the Mega Scrafty, the Slowbro, and the Mudsdale.
Right. I think the Trick Room mode is something that we've seen EJ kind of play towards a good amount in the season thus far. I think it gets a little bit trickier to execute this week because of the presence of that Mega Steelix on Nick's team. Just because, I mean, even though you have super effective damage in it from the Scrafty and the Mudsdale, you've got the double Intimidate. The fact is that Steelix's physical defense is so high, and even if you Intimidate it down, you might be relying on something like Body Press to do damage too. And so that Steelix here looking to be pretty well positioned if EJ were to go for that Trick Room mode. So I'd be curious to see if EJ is going to bring any of the tricks out of the bag to deal with that Mega Steelix for this week, since you don't actually have ways of hitting it very strongly on the special side other than that Slowbro.
Right, Slowbro does offer the Scald though, and there is always the chance of that Scald burn. We could even potentially see something like a Iron Defense from the Mudsdale. Could be another route, or sometimes just don't overthink it. You do have the Mega Victory Bell that you can rely on. Not hitting Steelix for super effective damage, but it does just pose a huge threat, especially with that innards out. A Pokemon you probably want to clear more quickly than not, but if you score the one hit knockout, it's probably taking your Pokemon down with it.
Right. I think that Mega Victory Belt, it has actually been pretty funny so far this season. It's actually been, the innards out ability has been more effective at actually like taking 1-for-1 trades than I thought. I would have thought it'd be, you probably want to chip that Mega Victory Belt down before you take the KO. But a lot of players so far have just been sending really big damage into it. The Victory Belt just drops, and then suddenly, the attacker goes down with it. On the side of Nick this week, I guess probably you're looking at the Chandelure or maybe the Mamoswine as Pokemon that you might be wanting to innards out Ing this week.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see. I think there's a lot of Pokemon that could make an impact here in this set. We're waiting on our trainers to get into the lobby, and I will finally pay myself off with a little bit of a stall here, as we will actually encounter the date reset shenanigans of this game. So go
Yep.
ahead and get that garbage out of the way sooner rather than later.
Happy new day, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm actually, in particular, very selfishly pretty excited to watch this match because Nick is actually my opponent for next week, and EJ is my week 8 opponent. And so maybe I'll get to look a little bit deeper into how they like to team build and stuff. I'm doing a little bit of evil reconnaissance right now for this match.
Absolutely. I mean, you get to cast, you get to have fun while doing your homework. It certainly is going to be a little bit better and more enjoyable for you, whereas I was just up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching Craig's VODs. So,
Phew.
yeah, we'll see. Maybe your prep will be a little bit better than mine.
Dude, Craig's not that funny. You don't need to wait up, stay up that late to watch him.
Honestly, I enjoy Craig. I'm very it's a very interesting second half of the season. Really, also you can include even all the honestly, I mean, the only players that I've played this season that I didn't have at least some experience with was Nick, who I think I've met exactly one time, and Matt, who I think I've met twice. But I mean, I've played EJ a fair bit between locals. We hung out a bit at Orlando Regional. Obviously, Austin, you and I we're old friends at this point, practically, at least in
Ta-da!
terms of VGC. Um,
Yeah.
but then having to go up against Craig and Blake and AJ and Andrew at the end of the season, it's like, oh boy, like I don't know what the schedule maker, what I did to upset them, but the schedule maker definitely did not want me to have an easy second half of the season. To be fair, like we were looking at the or I believe it was the other night talking about, just how wide the Indianapolis scene is in terms of talent. Um, and if we're counting the Grand Champions Festival, I am going up against, I think, like in the neighborhood of like 14 collective day twos across my final 4 weeks, something like
Wow.
that. because, well, no, it's actually probably more than that, because Blake is 4, counting the Grand Champions, AJ is 5. Roundy, I believe, is 3 or 4, and Craig has a couple to his name as well. So it's definitely a rough second half of the season. But yeah, definitely going to be interesting. We are getting into the team preview here in just a moment. But yeah, we're Draft League. It's just getting better and better every single week. Hopefully the fans at home are just as excited about it as we are.
Yeah, definitely. I am taking a look at the Twitch chat. I do want to say that Jackson says being bald isn't funny. It's a serious disease, JJ, in response to you staying up and watching Craig. But yeah, thanks for participating, guys, in chat. You know, I'll keep an eye on. I got it open. I see everything that you guys are saying.
I do have chat open as well outside the corner of my vision. So we will see, but we are getting into team preview here for game number 1. And Nick, definitely a little spooky as we see double ghosts with Rotom and the Chandelure, both megas as well. And the Watchog, probably the most interesting bring of them all. Meanwhile, on EJ's side, we do see that Annihilate. We do see the double megas as well with the Victory Bell and the Scrafty, opting for the Gardevoir this week, which I think is probably the most interesting Pokemon, even compared to that Toucannon.
Right. I think this is actually kind of interesting that Gardevoir is actually currently EJ's least used Pokemon, having come to only 1 battle so far. But I think if there's a week for Gardevoir, this okay. I mean, you're doing good fairy damage to the Dragonite. Certainly the Dragonite doesn't like to see you, but the double ghosts from the Rotom and the Chandelure is going to be scary, as well as that Steelix. I really hope that Gardevoir has like Mystical Fire or something for that Steelix to be able to chip it down.
It could be something like that. Gardevoir does have a pretty diverse move pool. It does have access to something like the Shadow Ball as well for the double ghost types. So that could be an avenue. It does also notably get access to Trace. So do we see it trace something like the Pixelate, something like a Multiscale, if it makes an appearance? But to start, it's going to be Annihilate and Toucannon versus Dragonite and Watchog. That, I think, is a brand new sentence.
Yeah, I have no idea how to interpret what's going to happen on this turn. I don't know what Toucannon does. I don't know what Watchog does. I barely know what Annihilate is supposed to do in this situation now that you don't have Final Gambit. And so this is actually interesting. Also, Watchog's very first battle appearance. So everybody, round of applause for Watchog, please. We do know that Watchog gets the very classic, like, normal type coverage moves, but I don't think offensively it's going to be really doing all that much, unless maybe, like, maybe start spamming, like, Hypnosises or something like that, Hypnoses.
Yep.
But really, I think the only thing that's in danger of being knocked out this turn is the Annihilate from a strong flying move from the Dragonite.
We'll have to see the close combat into the Watchog to open things up, but it with the Detect will stay safe. Dragonite just going to set up a Tailwind, so it's going to be up to the Toucannon here as we see the Rock Blast come out, but Skill Link guaranteeing you hit 5 times still means you have to hit the first one, and mostly a nothing burger aside from Nick getting a Tailwind set up.
I really would have been curious to see how much that Rock Slide did to the Dragonite. Assuming it's multi-scale, the first hit breaks the multi-scale, and every subsequent hit doing a good amount of damage. So I don't think it would have gotten the KO, but that's a lot of damage on the Dragonite that EJ would have really loved to have. That's just not there anymore. As we see that Dragonite retreat for the Sylveon, the Watchog retreat for the Sylveon to take this close combat. Very likely actually to be a Scarf Annihilate, seeing as how it outsped the Dragonite. The Dragonite actually revealing not multi-scale, the Inner Focus, the Intimidate not doing anything into the Sylveon, as we see Air Cutter, special Dragonite, hitting super effectively into both of these targets, but not for all that much damage.
The Life Orb reveal, so also a reason to not be running the multi-scale is you would break it yourself, but it's going to be a Phantom Force from the Annihilate here, which is going to allow it to dodge a turn of damage and stall out a Tailwind turn without having to rely on a Protect. So a little bit of a clever move choice here from EJ. It'll be interesting to see, does Scrafty opt to Mega Evolve, and does Scrafty opt to fake out this Sylveon? It will be the Mega Evolution, so the second round of Intimidates falling on, well, pretty much nobody that cares, since Dragonite has revealed at least one special move. But you have to think, if it's not a fake out here, Sylveon's just going to scream and Scrafty's going to go all the way back to Lumio City, as it is the fake out.
Right, so no trip to Lumio. Scrafty doesn't have to pack his bags just yet, as the Air Cutter misses the Annihilate in the Ether, does hit the Scrafty, putting it in range, not even really range of another one. So Air Cutter, I mean, that base 55 move, really not doing all that much. Unfortunately, that's a flinch from the Sylveon, and the Phantom Force into the Dragonite. Not enough for the KO, and kind of unfortunately so, knowing that the 2 cannons Rock Blast surely would have done 30% to the Dragonite.
Oh, absolutely. It would have done quite a bit of damage. And now here on this final turn of Tailwind, you have to hope that you can stall this one out. Scrafty, Annihilape, we will have to see if these Pokemon have access to Protect, as Annihilape does reveal that third move to be Protect. Does the Scrafty Protect here? It does not. The Air Cutter will come out. It will connect. Is this going to be enough? It is. And Mega Scrafty will be Mega KO'd by a critical hit. Not sure that might have mattered. It'll be interesting to see. But the Life Orb tick onto the Dragonite will reduce its HP further. And Sylveon, no screaming for you. Shut up, Sylveon.
Dragonite actually apparently has more KOs than the Sylveon so far, so it's stealing another KO from its compatriot as the Gardevoir hits the field right when Tailwind expires. I think actually, now that you're EJ, this is kind of perfect timing. The Gardevoir, depending on its, maybe its Choice Scarf, maybe it's just trained very heavily in its speed. Probably one of the faster things on the field right now. Something like a Dazzling Gleam, no Trace coming out, but so spread Dazzling Gleam, probably looking to be good damage, and the Annihilape maybe threatening some damage back into the Sylveon. Interestingly, it's actually a little bit awkward for Nick and the Trubishes to set up a second Tailwind now if the Annihilape were to click Phantom Force, as we saw that the Annihilape was faster than the Dragonite. So the Annihilape would disappear, Phantom Force, Tailwind would get set, and the next turn the Annihilape would be slower and not actually be able to get hit as it pops out of that Phantom Force. So we do see the Dragonite in the face of that Gardevoir deciding to retreat.
It will be the Chandelure. The Dazzling Gleam, as you said, will come out. Decent chip damage into the Chandelure, pretty reasonable damage into the Sylveon, but it's actually going to be the Earthquake Telepathy combination revealed here. We'll see how much Annihilape is able to do. Not enough to claim a KO on either Pokemon, but both brought very low as a result, and it's going to be the Hyper Beam! So Sylveon, it is not going to scream, but it will just eviscerate that Annihilape.
Dude, what did the Annihilate do to the Sylveon that the Sylveon decided to hyper? Like, there's some like personal beef going on between them, because surely a hyper voice would have been enough. But you know, the hyper beam.
Yeah, I think Sylveon is just expressing its frustration at the current state of the political climate, being known as such a trans icon.
I see.
It's just letting out all of that anger, and Annihilape happened to be the target this turn, but now Sylveon going to have to take that mandatory recharge turn. And Chandelure, not with that extra defensive bulk from the Mega Evolution, taking quite a lot of damage on the switch-in. We will see the Mega Evolution come out, but both of these Pokemon under a lot of threat from the Gardevoir and the Toucannon.
Right, I'm fairly certain the Gardevoir is Choice Scarf, seeing as how it outsped the Annihilape. Actually, not enough to take the KO on either of these Pokemon. Chandelure should be the next to move. Actually, Sylveon is actually quite fast, being the next to move. Knock off into Chandelure. The Chandelure very likely setting Trick Room, but not able to get it off. And at this point, honestly, I think EJ's not in a terrible position. You're 4-2 down, but I think this is the exact kind of position that you might want to find yourself in. Dragonite's low. Watchog, I guess it came in, switched out. It's at full health. So if there's anything going to save this game for Nick, it's going to be this Watchog.
Yeah, Watchog will have to be the hero. Of course, Sylveon surviving on a Sliver to keep that Pokemon around. If Watchog is able to land a Hypnosis into the Gardevoir, there may be a chance that it's able to get another move off. Of course, it does also have access to Quick Attack, boosted by that Pixelate, so we may just see a final parting gift from Sylveon into one of these Pokemon before it takes its leave in game number 1.
Yeah, I think the only thing that you can do if you're the Watchog is Detect with the Sylveon and then T-Wave the Gardevoir. I think that's the only way that you have to get speed control on this, because otherwise the Gardevoir is just going to get a Dazzling Gleam its way out. That's be so much damage into the Watchog, almost a 2-hit KO, as we do see Hypnosis. So it's not as consistent as the T-Wave, but maybe it gets the job done just as well. As the Toucannon finally going to reveal its last move, Knock Off. Not enough for the Watchog. gets rid of the zoom lens actually.
So zoom
explains
lens,
why you've
yeah.
got Hypnosis then.
Zoom lens definitely boosting the odds with Hypnosis. Most notably, actually, the most successful Watchog in history from the Grand Champions Festival was running a raw Hypnosis back then without access to the accuracy boosting item. So not the most absurd thing we've ever heard of in the realm of absurd Watchog things. But yes, Toucannon able to bring that Pokemon quite low. Will take a quick attack for its trouble. Gardevoir taking the mandatory sleep turn. It's the Ice Punch into Yachi Berry reveal here. Toucannon will survive that hit with plenty of HP to spare. And now, will it be able to land an attack? It is just going to go for the safe knockoff. Will KO the Sylveon and will reveal the held item of choice, potentially, I think?
Probably Fairy Feather. There
It is, in fact, the Fairy Feather, yes. So
I think this is actually a little bit of a missed opportunity for Nick. We saw that the Sylveon is faster than the Toucannon, and so and Toucannon actually doesn't get Quick Attack. So there's no reason to have to outspeed, and try and play around priority. I think if you just send with the Watchog some attack and then Hyper Voice with the Sylveon, you're able to get really big damage into both of these Pokemon. But at this point, I mean, you're just fighting the sleep timer on that Gardevoir now. As soon as it wakes up, it's going to click one Dazzling Gleam, and that's all she wrote. So 1 in 3 chance for EJ to wrap up the game this turn. If not this turn, then Nick's going to have to take the double the Gardevoir to take the KO on it this turn. Otherwise, there's no other way to come back into this game.
yeah, I think if you are Nick, though, and you want to gamble, and you do get the gamble correct on the sleep turn, here's the Tailwind from the Dragonite. Will another Ice Punch be enough to finish off the Toucannon? It's actually the Super Fang into the Gardevoir, going to drop it off to 50%, but the knockoff will claim the Dragonite. So now, Watchog, 3 turns of Tailwind to work with, but it's Watchog versus the world. Yeah, Life Orb, of course, we knew on the Dragonite. So, yeah, 3% in a dream, I suppose.
Yeah, Watchog, I'm taking a look, actually just gets 0 spread moves. Literally nothing you can do. It actually, the Scarf Gardevoir outspeeding the Watchog even in its own Tailwind. Yeah, not what you want to see. That Dazzling Gleam does take the Watchog out. Watchog, maybe not the greatest first season debut for it, as EJ does go up 1-0 in the set. One thing that I do want to mention is that the Toucannon being Yachi Berry almost certainly is collateral for the Mamoswine that didn't even show up this week, is kind of bench warming. But I think coming into play here as that Ice Punch, it does a lot less to the Toucannon than you would expect. So I think actually pretty interesting endgame. Wasn't entirely unwinnable for Nick. I think a few different move choices might have been able to seal it up, especially given that you hit that Hypnosis, which is definitely crucial to even have the chance. So with that in mind, I think I'd be pretty curious to see how Nick wants to adjust this game. That Gardevoir, Dazzling Gleams, wasn't that much damage while the Chandelure was on the board, but the Chandelure really just came in, took a few attacks, tried to set Trick Room, and then fainted. So I think if you were Nick, you probably, if you want to play to that Trick Room mode, you're going to have to start with the Chandelure up front or do something a little bit different to make sure that Chandelure is more well protected if that's the mode of speed control you decide to opt for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Tail Room approach, definitely not a bad option to go for here. I think if we had seen Chandelure perhaps not take that Earthquake on the switch in, we could have seen a very different outcome, especially with that Sylveon under Trick Room. But of course, I mean, it's just going to come down to how our trainers are able to position their Pokemon here. Annihilape and Gardevoir certainly putting in a lot of work for EJ. Nick definitely has the right type combinations to be able to counteract that, right? Has access to the Steelix for Gardevoir, has access to the Sylveon for the Annihilape, but finding the right board states, I think, is going to be the challenge here.
Right. I think, EJ, that Toucannon actually was a lot more impressive than I thought it would be. But that base 120 attack stat is really doing wonders for it. Even though it's not particularly fast, you just sit there, you don't particularly die to anything, and just spam knockoff, get some information, get some good damage down. Worked out pretty well for Toucannon's favor, so I think that redeems its Rock Slide miss from turn 1 of game 1. As we see the adjustment from both of our players, we see Gardevoir out on the field immediately for EJ, as well as Chandelure out on the side of Nick.
Yeah, Nick definitely tipping his hand that he may be looking for a slower game 1 approach. Chandelure could be looking to set up that Trick Room, but we have seen the Earthquake threat from Annihilape. Not enough to claim the Chandelure on its own, but Gardevoir contributing a bit of damage might be enough to tip the scales here. Watchog, I do not believe, has access to Fake Out, so It'll be interesting to see here how it can try to help out its partner on this opening turn.
Right. I think if you're EJ, knowing that your Gardevoir is Scarf, you don't want Trick Room to go up. And I don't really see this Watchog threatening much of anything, really. I think you're safe to launch a double attack into the Chandelure. If the Gardevoir is Shadow Ball, now's the time to bring it out. Otherwise, a strong Psychic type, Psychic into Ghost type move from Annihilate, or maybe even Earthquake will be enough for it. As we see the Gardevoir actually Scarf Hypnosis, maybe not the most reliable way of shutting down Trick Room, but it's going to do the trick at least for this turn.
Absolutely. And the Earthquake Telepathy combo once again. I feel like I'm back in generations earlier, at least. Gardevoir didn't get access to telepathy until generation like 6 or something like that, as it is a trade of Hypnosi between these two Pokemon. So Gardevoir and Chandelure have a case of the EPs here, as Annihilate and Watchog just staring at each other menacingly.
Yeah, with a very, very funny group of Pokemon to be staring at each other very menacingly. But of course, the Annihilate will have the edge if it decides to go for it. It can launch that close combat into the Watchog. The Watchog Zoom Lens, no Choppleberry, so definitely in range of close combat here. As we see Scrafty revealed, Intimidate probably not doing that much to either of these Pokemon. As we see the Annihilate actually disappear with the Phantom Force. If this is going to the Chandelure slot, then that's certainly another way to deny Trick Room this coming turn, as we see Hypnosis dodged into the Annihilate.
Yeah, the easiest way to dodge Hypnosis is to not even give it a chance to hit. And now Chandelure, certainly in a great deal of threat, not able to wake up, will get hit by this Phantom Force on the following turn. And I think I've seen more Phantom Force in the last couple of sets than I have all of the history of champions prior to this. So it's definitely been a day for the Ghost types. But yeah, Scrafty and Annihilate certainly set up in a very nice board against this Watchog and the Chandelure. I think EJ firmly in the driver's seat, even if Gardevoir is taking a nap on the bench.
Right, there are no Ghost Resists in the back too, so if Chandelure were to switch out, you're not able to burn a Sleep turn. If it stays in, then it certainly drops to the Phantom Force. So EJ's got not quite a pin, but a lot of pressure into this slot as the Chandelure does decide to retreat in favor of the Sylveon. Ooh, the Sylveon's going to be taking a lot of damage on the switch in, and the Watchog, maybe all it has is Hypnosis back into the slot, but because the Scrafty gains some speed upon Mega Evolution, it's very possible that a Fighting type move into the Watchog is able to take it out before it can even get the Hypnosis into the Annihilate.
Certainly, and now double Intimidate as well into the Watchog, plus the Fake Out, not even giving it a chance for that Hypnosis. As we see, Phantom Force will even be a 2-hit knockout onto the Sylveon, so a lot of damage being threatened by Sylveon against the Scrafty, but it may not even get a chance to hit this Annihilate before it goes down.
Right, I think actually I see a play here for Nick, actually, which is, I mean, it's not great. It's funny, but it's not great, which is the Annihilate is actually pretty likely to either send a Fighting-type move into Watchog or a Phantom Force into the Sylveon. So I think what you can do is switch the Chandelure, or so the Watchog into Chandelure, to take the fighting attacks from both the Annihilate and the Scrafty. Well, I guess, it's not really worth talking about it anymore, but here comes the Phantom Force. This is into the Chandelure. If the Watchog gets switched on into Chandelure, then you can actually switch the Watchog in for the Sylveon next turn, and then take the nothing from the Phantom Force, and then the Chandelure can have a chance to wake up and do something to the Annihilate when it pops out. Obviously not the game that we're watching now, as we see another Hypnosis hit from the Watchog into the Victory Bell as it switches in. Hyper Voice actually doing reasonable damage into Mama Kush on the way in too, but that Phantom Force into the Sylveon, really, I mean, EJ's got himself in the same position as he was 2 turns ago. There's a knockout threatened into that left slot, and not much that Nick can do about it.
Yeah, I think the only play Nick has in order to save a Pokemon in that slot would be to switch in that Steelix if it was the Bring, and certainly could be, given the fact that we've seen 3 Pokemon that very much favor Trick Room here. So perhaps Steelix, even without Mega Evolving, still a very physically bulky Pokemon, could take the hit and give Watchog the chance to spread that Hypnosis. As we actually see Watchog, the Pokemon to switch out here, Chandelure will be the one to come in.
Right, so in comes Phantom Force, enough for the Sylveon. Nick, I mean, that's your S tier, that's a major source of your damage, just gone. That Scrafty's looking a lot better now that the Fairy type has been removed from the game. Victory Bell takes its mandatory turn of sleep, as the Chandelure, also having taken only 1 turn of sleep now, both the Victory Bell and the Chandelure will be trying to attempt to wake up this next turn if they don't switch.
Absolutely, and we see Watchog just returning. Nick playing very close to the chest, not revealing his fourth Pokemon. So the plot thickens. What will that final Pokemon be, and will it be able to do anything against this Annihilate, which seemingly is just rampaging through this game number 2?
Right, I think at this point, I mean, Nick has really just been switching around, maybe spreading a few sleeps here and there, but EJ has been the one clicking attacking moves and getting damage down, so even though the Pokemon count doesn't look too bad at 4-3 and having 2 of EJ's Pokemon asleep, I really think EJ could probably just click buttons out for the rest of the game as we see Victory Bell actually choose to protect itself here, actually getting the one-turn wake in the face of the Annihilate. Actually, Earthquake coming out, if the Victory Bell hadn't woken up, then the Earthquake wouldn't have come out. But this Earthquake, probably not enough for the Chandelure, actually.
No.
I don't know, this is maybe Nick's opportunity back into this game.
Hypnosis will come out, so Annihilate now will join the Sleep Club. Will Chandelure wake up? It does! We will see the Trick Room go up. So now, speed tiers are going to be a factor. Watchog probably underspeeding that Victory Bell, and Chandelure finally able to threaten huge damage. Shadow Ball into the Annihilate an option. A Heat Wave would do a lot of damage to both. Watchog, you have to keep clutching up, buddy. You have to hit a Hypnosis into this Victory Bell, though, because at this point, a Sludge Bomb or a Sleep Powder into Chandelure could just spell disaster for this comeback.
This is actually quite interesting. I think what you can do, if you're Nick, is actually Super Fang the Annihilate and Heat Wave. The Victory Bell actually just protected this last turn, so it can't protect. Heat Wave actually, well, I guess it depends on this training on the Victory Bell and the Chandelure. Chandelure is actually quite fast for a Trick Room Pokemon. So actually, if the Victory Bell is slow enough, it can actually get the KO on the Chandelure, but no, Obsford on the Watchog instead. So actually, yeah, the Watchog actually not being the slowest thing on the field. Giga Drain taking the KO, but is this going to be a Heat Wave from the Chandelure? No, just a Shadow Ball into the Annihilate. Definitely enough for the KO, but this, oh, Focus Sash Annihilate actually revealed.
It is indeed the Focus Sash, so Annihilate hanging on just to take another sleep turn, but now with the speed order revealed, Victory Bell definitely slower than the Chandelure. It's gonna have to be, and it is the Steelix revealed as the final Pokemon, but without access to Mega Evolution, going to struggle to do the damage that it needs in order to remove this Victory Bell before the Chandelure falls.
Right, Algernon the Steelix, really like that nickname, by the way. Yeah, the Steelix is going to have to do something big to this Victory Bell this turn, or maybe over the course of 2 turns, you can protect the Chandelure and maybe Heavy Slam into the Victory Bell right now, but with Mega Evolution already spent on the Chandelure, the Steelix is just stuck in its base form without an item to help it. And so, definitely, I mean, Nick would prefer to be in this situation than any other, but high horsepower, not enough for the Victory Bell. Does the Victory Bell have enough damage into the Chandelure? It actually just strength saps the Steelix.
So now, -1 attack on the Steelix. Scrafty will come in, be able to drop that stat further. It is the Heat Wave, so Chandelure able to claim a pair of knockouts and will force a 2v2 endgame, but Steelix going to find itself at -2 in what looks to be potentially quite an uphill battle. Gardevoir not going to be hitting the board in a very favorable state. Of course, you know, you've got the EPs, you're Choice Scarfed, you're under Trick Room, facing down a Steelix and a Chandelure, but meanwhile, Scrafty, I think, is salivating looking at this board state.
Right, I mean, being at full health, unless Steelix gets a surprise fairy type move that I don't know about, would be very surprised. The Scrafty almost certainly underspeeding the Chandelure, meaning that you probably don't even need to bother with the Fake Out, knowing that the Steelix is so weak. Could probably just send a move, just a Dark type move like Knockoff into the Chandelure, take that KO. And the Steelix maybe not even able to take a KO on the Gardevoir right now either, so I think the Scrafty finds itself in a pretty nice spot with the Trick Room setup. As Steelix actually reveals Wide Guard, unfortunately not going to do anything this turn, given that the Gardevoir actually hasn't taken its mandatory turn of sleep yet. As Scrafty's knockoff does go into the Chandelure, Steelix unable to act on the turn. I think what you really needed to do was attack the Scrafty and hope to get a crit, and then be able to take care of the Gardevoir after. But at this point, I don't see a -2 Steelix taking the 1v2 versus these 2 full health Pokemon from EJ's side.
Yeah, something like a Fissure maybe would have been enough. We'll see the Earthquake come out, but that is a 10-hit knockoff, or not 10-hit KO rather, into the Scrafty as it replies with a knockoff. Of course, cannot remove the Negastone, so not doing the most amount of damage in return. But yeah, coming out of Trick Room now, Steelix yeah, not the best board state to say the least.
Yeah, I think, again, there were a few opportunities that Nick might have had in order to take this game, but we actually see Gardevoir does reveal the Shadow Ball, just like you mentioned, his tech for the double ghost types. Not that much damage into Steelix, but this Bidef drop definitely doesn't help. But really, the damage into the Steelix is going to be coming from this big close combat, enough for the knockout, and that is a clean 2-0 victory for EJ.
Yes, absolutely. And Scrafty Gardevoir tag teaming up to claim that victory, of course. Close combat, definitely more than enough damage, but I think with that special defense drop, Gardevoir would have been able to clean it up as well. Certainly an interesting approach from Nick. I think he's got the right idea, especially with those Trick Room pieces. Just kind of struggled to find the line in order to really get those plays set up properly. Certainly a very interesting draft, a draft that I actually really am quite fond of on his side. But of course, EJ finding ways to win with this grouping of Pokemon. And right on time, EJ, welcome to the stream. Congratulations on that 2-0 victory, man. How are you feeling?
Feels good. You know, that Watchog was putting in some work on me. I didn't realize those probably wide lens. I'm like, it's hitting everything. What's going on here?
Yeah, wide lens Watchog indeed, especially, boosting the accuracy on that Hypnosis, boosting the accuracy on that Super Fang, giving your whole team a big old case of the EPs. But at the end, all of your Pokemon working together really to just output plenty of damage in that matchup. Austin, where do you want to start? Because there's a lot to cover in this one.
Yeah, I think pretty interesting takes for the Toucanon especially. I know that, now that we're in the back half of the season, people are looking at their teams and seeing who they haven't used yet and who's got to come. So I think Toucanon showing up, you're able to get one more Toucanon game out of the way. I'm sure you're pretty happy about that. So speaking of, I mean, unfortunately, you missed the rock blast on the Dragonite in turn 1 of game 1, but it seems like you had a pretty good idea of what you wanted Toucanon to do, and it executed well in game 1. Talk us through your Toucanon thoughts.
Yeah, so looking at his team, what shows out is a Dragonite, and with Toucan, as long as Dragonite doesn't have electric move to just one shot it, I mean Rock Slide pretty much takes care of it. So I was just like, if he leads that Dragonite, or he could lead Mega Chandelure, there's knockoff. So I have tools into both of them just in case, just to see what he leads into it, and also in case he leads the Mamoswine as well. That was something I was kind of worried about because I think he had a Choice Scarf game on it. I was just like, ooh, I want to be ready for that too.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw the Yachi Berry come out from the Toucanon, so we kind of assumed it was for the Mamoswine, but being revealed from the Watchog Ice Punch of all things. In addition to that, I think the lack of Klefki as well is something that also is a little bit interesting. Seeing as how a good chunk of Nick's team skews like special from the Sylveon and the Chandelure, and maybe I guess the Rotom too, if you want to count that. But then you can also set Reflect for the physical parts of the team too. Was Klefki? Have you just had enough? Are you tired of bringing Klefki to every week so far, basically, or was there any? Did you have every other Pokemon you thought was more valuable than it this week?
Yeah, so I was kind of worried about Mega Chandelure and just Infiltrator. Just what's the point of bringing up screens? And
that's right. Yeah.
You know what I've realized, playing in a draft league is just like people just have tools into like what you want to do with screens. So it's just something to think about, and just trying to get every like ounce out of Klefki. So this week I just didn't feel like, just because I know I'd be seeing Mega Chandelure, it probably wasn't a good idea just to bring it into it.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah, Mega Chandelure, definitely a very polarizing Pokemon for your team to face. I mean, you've got Pokemon that fare well into it, like especially Mega Scrafty. But looking at your team, Scrafty, Mudsdale, yeah, sure, they probably don't have much of a problem with it. But then pretty much everyone else except for Toucanon is getting hit by super effective damage. I have to think that for you, Chandelure and probably Sylveon had to be the biggest points of emphasis in your prep, right?
Yeah. I definitely wanted to bring in Victory Bell just for, having it out there in case of it, but I also had Gunk Shot. Wait, did I have it? I know in prep I had Gunk Shot on Toucanon and uh Annihilate. I don't know if I kept it on Annihilate, but I had it just in case. But I was going back and forth of like, should I had Scarf on it or on both, so I'm not sure if I kept it on Annihilate, but I did have it in prep going to both of them.
Yeah, I believe the Annihilate revealed Phantom Force, Earthquake, Close Combat,
Oh
and
yeah.
Protect. So no Gunk Shot this week. We've talked about the potential Funky Gunky a lot today, but yet to see it come to fruition. But yeah, definitely a lot. I mean, Victory Bell as well, I think, coming in clutch as a bit of an anti-Trick Room Pokemon for you once again, even without that Innards Out Mega Evolution. Um, yeah, lots of interesting. I know, especially from my prep against you, right? There's just a lot of interesting techs and tools and tricks that your team has to offer that can really give you fits. Especially when you start to look at the lower tier Pokemon like the Toucannon. I mean, there's so much that it could do. It's hard to account for everything that that little bird can actually bring to a matchup.
Yeah, it definitely has it gets a pretty good amount of like tools it can use, and especially with like skill link. So you do new like bullet seed or some rock slide rock blast shenanigans. So it gets a good amount of tools just to like into different teams.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely does. Go ahead, Austin.
And then I guess since we're kind of approaching the back half of the season, or kind of rounding out the regular season, you've got to be pretty happy now that you've elevated your record up to 2-3, presumably keeping your playoff chances alive if you're able to win out. Um, and I guess the two-parter that I'd like to ask, first of all, in terms of the Pokemon that you need to bring in order to fill the 4-game requirement for each of them, looking at your team so far, it looks like Gardevoir and Toucannon were still below that 4-game threshold. Both of them now at 3 games total, so they'll have to make appearances in the future. Do you think you're going to have to struggle to find matches to bring them? Or I guess that ties into my second point, which is, have you looked at the rest of your season? Anything that you're particularly worried about, or anything that you're excited to do?
Yeah. Definitely, it's gonna be a tough schedule going ahead. I think I could fit both of them into the game. I meant to bring Gardevoir in last week, but I just didn't. But I think I could fill both. I think I could play both of them. So I definitely got a lot of tough opponents, especially you coming up towards the end of the season. So just try to take it 1 week at a time, and maybe we get a couple wins here and there.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Great. Well, that's exactly the attitude you need, especially given that the 2-3 record you'll have to win out if you're for any postseason hopes. So best of luck. Won't worry about the fact that we're playing each other later. I hope you have a great rest of your season. Is there anything else that you want to say before we get you out of here?
Yeah. Shout out everyone here. Shout out Indie VGC. This is a very fun league. It's very, you gotta really think, making a team each week and how you're gonna prep. So it's
Yeah.
fun and it's very different.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been having a blast getting into the kitchen, getting deep into both some less used Pokemon for sure, but also deep into the move pools and item choices. EJ, congratulations on that win. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening and best of luck in your future matches.
Thank you.
Alrighty. With that, that concludes the fourth match, but we actually have a surprise fifth match that will be occurring at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is in 23 minutes from now. So I hope you'll stick around for that. It's likely that we'll get that one on stream as well.
That's the plan, Austin. In the meantime, I was planning on just prattling on for a little bit. No sense in shutting things down when we're going to be getting right back to it. But yeah, let's go ahead and actually take a look at the playoff race going into the back half of the season. We've seen a few teams from both sides of the conference, obviously, playing so far today, but looking at the playoff picture as of right now, what stands out to you? Any surprises either on the top half or on the bottom half to you?
Right. So we'll start with the Corn Cob Conference. That's where both of us are. You yourself sitting at 4-0, looking really great. Well positioned for the postseason. I myself, after today, moving myself up to 4-1, so I'm pretty happy about that too. One thing that I think is really spooky about the Corn Cob Conference, I mean, at the halfway point, we're going to see a lot of 2-2 players kind of sitting around that bubble. But we have so many players that 4-0 or 3-1 in our conference that like the 2-2s are really getting drowned out. So you see a lot of strong players sitting there from 8th to 11th. That's EP Dreepy with Craig, the Brookston Bombardiers, with that's Brig. Yaksha Yveltal's is Patchy, and then Moss Deep Metagross is Spitzy. So lots of strong players that are sitting there vying for their playoff chances. Some of them have played this week so far, I think. Some of them are still yet to come up. But really, I think the top half of the Corn Cob Conference, seeing a lot of those 4-0, 3-1 records, that's indicative of a lot of strong players that we've got in this half of our draw.
Yeah, and I think especially of note, it's definitely interesting to see how game differential can impact your place in the standings. Looking at those two twos, Craig, for example, the highest rated of the 2-2 players has two 2-0 wins and then two 1-2 losses, so sitting at 8 points. Meanwhile, the other end of the spectrum, you have Zach, who has two wins, but they were both 2-1s, and then has two 0-2 losses. So you can see the difference in points. Zach's sitting there half the point total of Craig in spite of having the same record. So the differential really kind of coming into play. Zach going to have to dig even deeper than Craig will in order to secure a spot in our postseason.
Right. I think there's, and very unfortunately, I mean, it's hard to predict exactly. Maybe as we get closer to the end of the season, we can draw out a few more scenarios. But at this point, it's I think pretty likely that 6-2 will probably lock you for the postseason, and then we will get some 5-3s in, some 5-3s out. So if you're sitting at that 2-2 record, really want to be making sure you can only afford yourself. Well, you can't afford yourself any more losses if you want to guarantee your postseason. And one, if you think that your point differential is going to be strong enough. So even though 2-2 you think is objectively maybe not so terrible, because we're cutting the bottom 10 from each conference, 2-2 you might start to feel a lot of pressure in that record.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, some people may be fortunate, right? You may have some of those top teams on your schedule. You may be able to both play spoiler while also boosting your playoff stock. But by the same token, you might find yourself, with a postseason gauntlet where you have to run through, the top teams in your conference just to even have a chance to go to the big dance.
Right. Yeah. I think we're coming to a head. Really, the season's really heating up for both conferences. And so with that, we can also move down to the Pothole Conference. We actually have here three undefeated teams at 4-0. And I don't think any of them have played yet this week. And I don't think any of them are playing each other this week too. So it's very possible that they'll all remain undefeated at the end of this week too.
Spoiler alert, we will also find out if Jackson and the Dragonite Delivery Express are able to stay undefeated
That's
as
right.
we have that remediation game from week 4 coming up. So technically still 4 undefeated teams on that side, twice as many. But notably, all of those teams have had imperfect sets. They have at least dropped games. So the point spread on that side, very different. First place only 9 points, as opposed to the other side of the bracket where first place is sitting there at 12.
Right. I think that's pretty like indicative of the ways that the teams and the coaches have shaken out between each of the conferences. I think in the Pothole Conference, we've seen a lot more like scrappy battles, a lot of things that are kind of going back and forth, which is indicative of even the top teams having dropped some games here and there. And as a result of that, we actually see a lot more players at 2-2 as well. And so we see that even fifth place right now, starting at 2-2, is the Mount Chimney Torkoals being coached by Aaron Clemens. And then we have quite a lot of strong players at 2-2 here that are now, if you were talking about how the 2-2s in the Corn Cob Conference might be feeling some pressure in order to sneak into the postseason, think about how many more of them there are in the Pothole side that are really trying to vie for their postseason hopes now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, lots of good players as well. I mean, Justin Morris, for example, in 10th place there with those Potown Pat Rats, made it all the way to the finals against Andrew last season, if memory serves me correctly.
That's
So,
right.
certainly a very competitive conference, to say the least, over there. Some experienced players. I think the most interesting thing about that is just to look at the range of experience, right? Because you have managers, coaches like Matthew Woodruff, like Ali, like the aforementioned Aaron Clemens, who they've been around the block a time or two. They've played their fair share of VGC formats, and they're very familiar with some of these Pokemon. Especially from the historical context. I feel like every time I cast one of Allie's matches, for example, I'm getting a history lesson in a very fun way. But then at the same time, you've got players, like young Ben and his Dallas Mudsdales. You've got Nate and the Wake Crashers. Very much the opposite end of the spectrum where you've got young players. I mean, Ben, not quite as new, obviously, Ben competing in the seniors division. But you've got guys like Nate who are very, very new to VGC on the whole, able to make quite an impact.
Right. I think Nate being one of those undefeated 4-0 teams and one of the stronger teams, I think just in the league in general with that Pelipper plus Mega Swampert Rain Core and then having the Mega Sceptile as well. So I think, it'll be interesting to see how the two conferences kind of shake out. Very different trajectories for both of them, and actually the way that the playoff bracket is structured as well. The only inter-conference match will actually be the finals of the entire league, as your postseason will be a bracket made up entirely of the top 8 of your own conference. So with that in mind, I think it's easy for those of us on one side, like for JJ, you and I are both in the Corn Cob Conference, to maybe not pay as much attention to what's happening on the Pothole side. Maybe you watch a VOD here and there, but I think there's a lot of exciting Pokemon to be played on in both conferences, and really excited to see how things shake out, especially as we clear the halfway point of the season throughout the rest of this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it really just emphasizes a point that I brought up earlier. Also, was talking about in the chat last night a little bit about just how wide this Indianapolis scene is. Doing the math, I believe it came out to roughly half of this league having a day 2 appearance at either a regional or a major online tournament. I believe something like 50 some collective day 2 appearances across the entire group, and several former Worlds qualifiers as well. As I was getting pretty deep into the lore of old last night. But yeah, definitely, I think a fun experience for some of the newer players, but also very challenging experience for the rest of us as well, just because you get to see so many unique approaches to the game, but then also you just get to face off against such good competition.
Right. Definitely. I think the league, we've got, as you mentioned, kind of a wide array of experiences, a wide array of former participation in VGC in general and the indie scene specifically. So it's been a lot of fun to see how everybody's kind of interacting. I do know that there are a lot of people that have formed their own draft building groups with each other too. Last year, for instance, when we did our first iteration of the HDA, I actually prepped all of my teams entirely by myself, which was fun. But I had a lot of fun in that league. But I think now I'm actually building with some other people who will not be revealed, and it's made it a lot more fun for us to kind of collaborate and try to reveal text for each other and stuff like that. So I think as a community building exercise, this has been a lot of fun so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've heard that sentiment a fair bit as well. People finding friends from the opposite side of the aisle to prep with. Obviously, if you don't have to worry about playing your prep partner, you don't have to worry about that friendly fire. It does make it a little bit easier to get into the weeds of some of your game plans. I've not really been prepping too much, at least in terms of move pools and builds, but I do have a collaborator on the other side that I've bounced a couple of ideas off of, and we'll be bouncing a couple more off of soon. So definitely makes it a little bit more fun.
Yeah,
of
that
course-
would have been smart, huh? the yeah, we're on each other's schedules. But
Oh
which was
no.
ha tee hee. Yeah, it would have been smart, huh? It would have been smart.
It would have been smart indeed. Let's see. We've got a little bit more time to kill here, so let's go ahead and shift topic slightly. Another question that I was having a lot of fun picking people's brains with, that I
boy.
don't think I've gotten to ask you yet, Austin. Looking at the draft board, right?
6 inches.
Reflecting. Hmm?
Huh? Oh, what?
Whoop. Oh, oh. Anyways,
Yeah.
we can talk about that
Uh,
after the stream. Looking
uh-huh.
at the draft board, now that we've gotten 4 weeks in, of the Pokemon that went undrafted, is there anything that stands out to you,
Oh
looking
boy.
back on the draft? Any of these Pokemon that you think in hindsight maybe were unfairly snubbed, or perhaps any Pokemon that you think were very appropriately left behind?
Um, I think personally, uh, Mega Meganium is something I think would have been really sick in a draft league. But I think the format of our draft was very punishing for it. Because Mega Meganium, I think it's very feast or famine. I think in draft in particular, I've learned that Pokemon with 4 times weaknesses, like not that 4 times weaknesses are ever like good necessarily, but they're much more exploitable in draft since your opponent knows that they're coming and they can tech some like whack ass tech moves onto some of their Pokemon, you know? So a 4 times weakness to poison on Meganium when like, so many Pokemon, like we saw the Watchog gets Gunk Shot, the Annihilate gets Gunk Shot, right? Just the random poison moves that you can't really see coming. So that's kind of difficult for it. As well as a lot of Meganium's favorite partners like Farigiraf and Incineroar and Aerodactyl are also in the same tier. So no team could have had all of them. So I think it kind of makes sense for Meganium to be out. Palafin and from the S tier also going undrafted, I think probably makes sense. Like, I mean, the way that the draft worked out is that every tier it was known how many Pokemon from each tier were going to go undrafted, so we knew there were going to be 2 undrafted S tiers. I don't know that I would have expected Palafin necessarily to be one of them, but I'm not entirely surprised either. Moving down the tiers a little bit, normal Venusaur going undrafted. That one actually is a little bit. I think we have the Mega Charizard Y was drafted by I think Ted and the Flare Blitzers in the Corn Cob division with basically the Mono Fire team. Would have been nice for Zard Y and Venusaur to be paired together, but because he was already committed to the Mono Fire team, I guess Venusaur wasn't meant to be. Looking down, further beyond that, I don't think any of these Pokemon that went undrafted, I think, are like crazy picks to have left alone, except for maybe Mega Alakazam from the C tier. I think there's a lot of funny stuff you can do with Mega Alakazam. It's got an amazing speed tier at 150. I think that ties Mega Aerodactyl for being the
It
fastest thing in
does
the game right
indeed,
now.
yeah.
And so I think that would have been really cool. You could have done some speed swap shenanigans, like you have Mega Alakazam and then like a slower Pokemon that gets a lot of spread moves or something like that. Like maybe base Abomasnow or something like that, and you can just skill swap and get the fastest Abomasnow of all time. That would have been kind of interesting to see. So I'm a little sad. Psychic types always have a lot of tricks up their sleeves, So I understand it not going because of the frailty, but I think we could have seen some very funny shenaniganry out of Alakazam, Mega Alakazam this season.
Yeah, that was definitely one that I was looking at a couple of times, was waiting to see when it would go off the board. Of course, I mean, I opted for a different C tier Pokemon quite early on, so it was never really on my draft board, but was definitely a little surprised to see a Mega Evolution not in the S tier go undrafted, especially when we saw quite literally every other Mega Evolution get drafted, even things, like the Mega Absol we saw earlier from
Yeah.
BPAT, all the way down in that super low F tier. Mega Audino, a Pokemon that we saw get drafted.
Mega Glalie even drafted onto Matt Woodruff and the Pacers as well.
Yeah, I mean, Mega Glalie a goofy guy. He can do some things, I suppose.
Can he? He like
He
kills himself. Like that's all. That's the only thing I think he does, right?
Kaboom, Rico, kaboom.
Yeah. Kaboom.
Um, uh, but I mean, you do also he does other things. He'll throw an ice shard to break a focus sash sometimes.
I
Um,
suppose.
I suppose. Looking
Worth your
at
Megastone.
yeah, with your Megastone, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, looking at the rest of the board, it's a little tricky to say. There's a few Pokemon that have are very fond in my heart that I think, had I prioritized my draft differently and had to take something, being where I was at the top end of the draft, right?
Right.
I knew that my final pick was going to be very, very late in the process, which is why I adopted the strategy of punting on a higher tier and just saying, hey, no matter what I get stuck with, it can't be that bad. And then being faced with the choice of Mega Phalanx versus Mega Barbaracle, which that was a decision, let me tell you. But like looking further down the draft board, I mean, certainly these are not Pokemon that are like priorities. But looking at like the G tier, for example, you see something like base form Aggron, and I'm not going to tell you that base form Aggron is the best Pokemon ever. But I am going to tell you that something like base form Aggron with Rockhead Head Smash, if you can get it in the right board state, is not a bad Pokemon. It's not good, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm surprised that, like, for instance, like Ampharos was. Is Ampharos on Ali's team? Is that the
Ampharos
case?
is, in fact, on Ali's team, the Gastrodons, yes.
Right. Has it shown up yet?
Survey says I don't believe so.
Dang. Yeah. So that's a little unfortunate. So like I don't know what's Ampharos doing. Yeah, I think Aggron is probably better than Ampharos. Furfrou undrafted. Frostlass undrafted a little bit. Matt could have taken the Frostlass.
Certainly.
Normal Glalie goes undrafted. Normal Meganium, yeah, that's understandable. Normal
See-
Pinsir. Normal Pinsir has like Moxie, I guess. You could have done some
See,
Scarf
you
Moxie
say
stuff.
that, but base Meganium was actually the next low tier Pokemon I was gonna go to bat for, because looking at that draft board, I was like, you've got a bulky mono grass type that can set up screens, that can do lots of interesting supportive things. Being from an older generation, Meganium does not have a super limited move pool. It's got a lot of different supportive tools, so I think that there's a universe where somebody in a league like this, where virtually everything is getting drafted, somebody could have looked at Mega Meganium, and that might have been the final piece to the puzzle for them, or rather, the base form Meganium.
I'm you say, oh, it's a bulky mono grass type that can do X, Y, and Z. I don't think you can't say bulky mono grass type in the same way that you say, like, oh, this is a bulky water. That makes sense. Bulky grass doesn't make sense. I don't think you could just say that. I'm looking at the Twitch chat, by the way. Ryan does say Ampy was in team preview when Ryan and Ali played in week 1. So that's pretty interesting, but I guess it didn't show up. I don't remember it showing up, at least. I mean, it definitely didn't.
I mean, yeah,
But
like Ampharos, it's the case where it's like you've got the Pokemon, and it's kind of just a monotype ball of stats. Not like a overly impressive one, because like Ampharos obviously doesn't have like a ridiculous base stat total or anything like that, but you are looking at a Pokemon with good bulk at 90, 85, 90, 115 special attack, has access to, things like, I mean, granted, it's a slow Electro Web, but I believe it does have access to Electro Web. It does have access to some coverage moves, and it can be, if nothing else, a Trick Room deterrent against, an opponent. If, say, you're not playing, the one person who has Mega Camerupt or Mega Abomasnow, if you have a position where you can bring that Ampharos in under Trick Room somewhat safely, it could be a nice bit of, like, counter tech against that player, at least hypothetically speaking.
that is true. I mean, it does have base 115 special attack. That's respectable, especially for your G tier pick. I'm just gonna say I'm very happy with Musharna as my G tier pick. You saw Musharna put in good work this week. It's so fat. Do you want to calculate? We do have a room set up, by the way. But in the meantime, while you're sliding into that room, modest max special attack Mega Gengar, Shadow Ball into my Musharna, which was just max calm. What do you think the max roll on that Shadow Ball is?
70%.
It's 74, yeah, but like, I mean, that's a base 170 modest max, stab boosted, whatever, into super effective Musharna. And Musharna just like, I mean, it doesn't eat it, but it doesn't get nearly that close to fainting. I'm very happy with Musharna as my pick.
It does not fold like a lawn chair. That is for certain.
True.
Yeah, I definitely remember having to do my not my Mega Musharna, my Musharna calcs going into our matchup, and there was definitely a lot to stress out about for certain. Very bulky, very hard to deny Trick Room, and even, like, you don't really have to invest in your bulk in any other direction. So you end up with a Pokemon with just a monstrosity of a special attack stat and a ball of HP that's so hard to remove. So I'll pose the question to you then. In retrospect, do you think that maybe Musharna would have been worthy of a slightly higher pick for you than where you ended up taking it, obviously, which was that D tier?
Yeah. I went back and forth on between Musharna and Reuniclus for a while. Musharna being the G tier pick and Reuniclus being, I believe, in the E tier. And eventually I decided on Musharna, specifically because before the draft even started, I told a few people, like, I'm grabbing Musharna as soon as I can. I think Musharna is like a top 3 G tier pick personally. I thought Musharna, uh, Palda, like the normal Paldea and Tauros, and then the like Zoroark and Tyrantrum, I thought were like basically the only good G tiers. But I guess uh, uh, AJ is in chat talking about his G tier, which was his Steelix. Steelix carried me as last week. That's true. I guess Steelix did put in good work for AJ last week against the Zara's Trick Room oriented strategies. So I guess
Yeah.
I mean people are definitely finding ways to make use of their G tiers. For you, JJ, your G tier is Singapore, who actually I think has been doing. I mean, not by the numbers, maybe not great, but definitely been outperforming its G tier status, I would say.
Yeah, Simipour, as much trash as I have talked about the elemental monkeys ever since Generation 5 came out, Simipour has exceeded my expectations. I kind of was just expecting it to be a fake out bot, and it's kind of been anything but a fake out bot. I mean, obviously you have fake out, you click fake out, right? But I've been able to find ways to leverage it that just continue to impress me because it does just enough to be worth bringing in the matchups where I need to bring it, and that's been good enough for me. Um,
All
I'm
right.
I'm killing just a little bit more time as I don't believe we have our second competitor in the room yet. We
No,
will
not
get
just yet.
into, but I wanted to look through really quick to see what the best performing G tier has been, at least in terms of stats. Looking at the Corn Cob Conference, AJ Steelix 3 games brought 3 KOs is certainly impressive. Simi Sage actually for Andrew, 3 games brought 2 KOs. Not bad there either. I don't have the updated stats. I believe your Mersharna did claim an extra KO or 2 this week, so
I don't think it took a KO, but it did good chip around with
yeah.
Psychic.
Camerupt for Deontay actually 5 games brought 4 KOs. Not a bad
Oh yeah.
performance at all, especially for definitely one of the more memeable low tier Pokemon. Has fainted 5 in every single game it's been brought to though, so definitely not too much stamina on its side. I think
Those
though,
two of those camera up KOs are from my game one against it, by the way. It just
mm,
from one game. It was very sad.
yeah, I think I think looking at just the raw numbers though, the front runner for the best G tier pick at the mid-season mark, funnily enough, um, honorable mention to the Michael Jessup and the Hitmonlee's Delphox. 6 games brought, only 3 KOs though. But looking at it, it's actually Matthew Woodruff, the Tracer's Morpeko. 5 games brought, 5 KOs, and has only fainted twice.
I think it depends on how you want to argue it, because Patchy's Tauros Paldea combat has 6 games brought 8 KOs. It has fainted in every game. It's 8 and
Oh,
6.
yeah, I
At
am
6 games
apparently just
brought.
blind. I completely missed that.
I mean that one's tough, but I do think that that was one of the stronger G tiers for sure.
Yeah.
That said, I do have a gripe with like KOs being the best because like my Musharna is a support mon, like you can't judge it. It's like judge a fish by how it climbs a tree, like that's I have some gripes with that.
Yeah, you can't judge a fish by how it climbs a tree, but like everything else, it's a results-oriented league. They give all the credit to the quarterback and none of it to the punter.
That's so true.
As
That's
we
so true.
will go ahead and start to preview this one here just a little bit, as we do finally have both competitors in. This is going to be a makeup game from week 4. It's going to be Matthew Starzyk and his Pacifidlog Porygons. Love that one against Jackson and the Dragonite Delivery Express. Running through this really quick. And I actually still have my note from last week because I was going to cast this one before it got rescheduled. On Starzik's side here, having the Mega Gardevoir and the Mega Ampharos. So we talked about base form Ampharos a fair bit. Otherwise, a pretty interesting roster. A pair of starters in the Quaquaval and the Skeledirge. Anything that jumps out to you on this one, Austin?
I think Corviknight as the S tier pick is like maybe a little suspect, but I think the team got built around it relatively well. And Corviknight plus Gardevoir is like a pairing that you kind of expect to see even in kind of normal like constructed formats. But I think aside from that, maybe not so many hard hitters. That Mega Ampharos, if you can set up Trick Room for it with the Gardevoir, the Sinus, which one is this? Is the Poltergeist? Poltergeist? I don't, whichever one this
Poltergeist,
guy
yeah.
is. Poltergeist. Yeah, I think that's something that you can position that Mega Ampharos. But it looks like both of our players ready to go. So we'll quickly take a look at Jackson's team, if we
Yep.
could.
Absolutely. The double fairy types of Whimsicott and Eternal Flower Floette, flanked by, of course, the Mega Gallade, the Mega Sharpedo. So some interesting picks in terms of Mega Evolutions for Jackson. Of course, also the Hisuian Gudra, the Hoodra, Cofagrigus, Base Form Pyroar, and of course, Dedenne. Definitely one of the more interesting rosters, and yet Jackson has been able to pilot it to a commanding start to the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Whimsicott, also another Pokemon that maybe suffers from us looking at the KOs metric a lot, because Whimsicott with that Prankster ability, a plethora of status moves available to it, really has a lot of tricks up its sleeve. So I'd be really excited to see what shenaniganry that Whimsicott might be able to get up to this week. As we see a good supporting cast of that Hoodra, which basically never dies, Mega Gallade doing a lot of strong damage to Cofagrigus. Also doing quite a lot of supporting work and spreading that mummy ability around. So with that, it looks like both of our trainers are ready to go. And we'll go ahead and take a look at these teams.
Yes, we will. We will get right into it here. Yeah, I think definitely an interesting one on both sides, though. As we see here on Matt's side, we do have the Gardevoir Solo Mega today. Scrafty Quaquaval bringing a pair of fighting types into the Eternal Floette, which does not make an appearance for Jackson, so perhaps a gamble that will pay off here for Matt. The Corviknight, and of course the Teacup, who we never remember the name of because Sinistra's just better, and Skeledirge. Jackson's side, though, of course, Whimsicott, the hero of his matchup against Aaron in weeks past. Of course, Mega Gallade and Mega Sharpedo both at his disposal, as we will get right into it. No need for me to finish rattling about these rosters. We will just get into Game 1 and be able to see what our trainers have in store for us in our fifth and final set of the day. And it's going to be Whimsicott and Gallade on lead here, as we see Gardevoir and Jimbo James, the Scrafty.
We do see Trace revealed from the Gardevoir, actually grabbing the Sharpness from the Gallade. Maybe something funny could have happened if it grabbed the Prankster from the Whimsicott, but obviously this Gardevoir is not going to be able to take advantage of that Sharpness ability whatsoever. This Scrafty gets an Intimidate down onto the Gallade, which I think it's probably pretty happy with, but it might want to get up and out of there as it's facing a Moonblast down from the Whimsicott. Maybe Scrafty is holding something, a Roselli Berry, but I don't know how much that Roselli Berry would have helped against the Eternal Flower Floette if it would have came, just because of that 4x weakness. But we do see the Scrafty choose to stay in. Almost certainly, I wouldn't be surprised. Surely we have to see a Fake Out into the Whimsicott on this turn, but we do see a Gallade Mega Evolve to start us off.
Yeah, you would have to hope. And of course, Gallade and Gardevoir. So Gallade moving first, perhaps hinting at the speed order or perhaps a speed tie. Gardevoir threatening a lot of damage into this board, and it's actually the upper hand reveal from Scrafty, but it will fail. Worry Seed coming out into the Gardevoir here will be taking away that Pixelate, replacing it with an Insomnia. Iron Head coming out from Scrafty, actually. Okay, I got confused on some of the move orders there. Iron Head will do decent damage into Whimsicott, as Gardevoir will just set up a Trick Room.
Right. Yeah, what an interesting... I think Upper Hand probably was sent it to the Whimsicott, but maybe Pixel Matt not realizing that Upper Hand actually only works on attacking priority moves.
Well, so it was Upper Hand coming out from Gallade into the Scrafty, but since Scrafty went for the Iron Head, Upper Head has failed, and now we have Gardevoir and Scrafty under Trick Room, where they, definitely want to be against these two faster Pokemon. Another Iron Head from Scrafty will finish off Whimsicott, but it's actually Jimbo James who departs the field in favor of the Corviknight.
All right, Jimbo James hits the field. I think the Whimsicott switching out maybe in fear of taking another Iron Head from that Scrafty. But if you wanted to reverse the Trick Room, maybe you had the Encore option to the Gardevoir. But the Gardevoir does just launch a Psychic into the Gallade. That is a neutral hit into relatively specially defensive Gallade, doing a little less than half as we see Shadow Claw go into the Gardevoir. They trade about the same amount of damage on this turn, and that'll be it for this turn 2.
Very
really
interesting.
Yeah, very like scrappy exchanges between both of these players. Not a lot of huge like burst damage sent out, especially because the Gallade has been intimidated. And I think this is probably not a bad time for Scrafty to make another appearance if it chooses to do so.
Yeah, the Shadow Claw, of course, is boosted by that sharpness as we see Gardevoir get on out of there. Scrafty will take its place, now not under the threat of a Moonblast from Whimsicott. But yeah, you definitely have to think that that Worry Seed into Gardevoir, denying it any Pixelate boosts, really impacting how Matthew was able to play that second turn, as we see Wisp into Corviknight, severely going to be limiting the damage output of that bird, even with this bulk up.
Right, I think you're always really happy to get a burn into Corviknight. It's probably one of the best things that you can do into it. Shadow Claw doing pitiful damage into the Scrafty, but that's not, really what the Scrafty is here to do. I mean, it's not really threatened by the well, it is threatened by the Gallade's fighting type moves on this upcoming turn, even though the Gallade is at -1. But this Coffee here can send another Will-O-Wisp into the Scrafty if it chooses to do so, and the Corviknight, yeah, maybe it boosts up with the bulk up. You probably don't have much immediate damage into the Corviknight, but the Corviknight's not really doing anything either, so this Corviknight might be relegated just clicking bulk up for like many turns from now to invest in actually being able to get some damage down in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. It may just be a little bit of a race so far. Whimsicott not going to be able to do a lot of damage into a Corviknight, as we see another upper hand come out and fail. Shadow Ball from the Cofagrigus will be one of the better damaging options. We see that do quite a respectable chunk to Corviknight. A knockoff in response will do even more as the Mummy begins to pass itself around. Cassid Berry removed, so a little bit of information gained. Here's a +1 burned Brave Bird, and that will actually be enough to pick up Gallade.
Right, Gallade, maybe not the bulkiest, especially on that physical side, but the burn +1, all of that adding together to be 3/4 damage. But with the Gallade chipped at half, you surely expect that Brave Bird to pick up. So even though we said this Corviknight would probably need a few turns to get going, I guess when you've dealt some chip with the other Pokemon, that's all you need. And now we have this Aslan, the Turkish lion, or I guess the Narnian lion, probably more likely, sitting in front of the Scrafty here. So the Scrafty, I mean, depending on its moves, probably has a pretty big CC or fighting type damage into that Pyroar. We'll have to see what comes out here, as it is just Will-O-Wisp from the Cofagrigus first.
Another Wisp will be decreasing some damage output, contributing a little DOT. Will that be enough, though? It's Drain Punch, not close combat, so not even the 2-hit knockout into the Proud Lion. We'll have to see what the Corviknight goes for. Is it going to be a Brave Bird? No, it's a Roost. So all that HP lost from the Shadow Ball, from the Brave Bird recoil, will be regained. We'll see if the Heat Wave, not enough to wipe it out completely, but that will be a huge chunk of damage. Roost really the only thing keeping Corviknight on the field at this point.
Right. You have to imagine, I think there's one more turn of Trick Room remaining, which means... Oh, I lied. So with no more turns of Trick Room remaining, really I think this Pyroar is in a pretty nice slot. It can really just send out Heat Wave. As long as you get that double connect, you get good damage into Scrafty, you take the KO on the Corviknight, and that Cofagrigus is, maybe in range of taking... Actually, probably Cofagrigus probably lives a knockoff from the Scrafty, now that the item's been removed and it's been burned since then.
We'll have to
see.
see
the Heat Wave come out.
Yeah, Heat Wave will be enough to send Corviknight back home for game number 1. Scrafty will hang on. Drain Punch into the Chopal Berry, so the advantage of non-Mega. Now that the Corviknight's Unnerve is off the field, the Chopal Berry being consumed. So interesting interaction there that I think we might have missed, as it will just be a Shadow Ball coming out. Probably the only offensive move that Coffee Boy is running here. But it is going to be a special defense drop, which is probably the last thing that Jimbo James needed at this point, as it just keeps piling on.
I doubt that Jimbo James is really going to do much in this position, even without the Sped F drop, but at this point, I mean, when you're facing down a Pyroar that outspeeds it, and will definitely get the KO with Heat Wave, things might shake out a little bit differently. But actually, we see the Quavel sent out as Pixel Matt's final Pokemon, and Quavel is obviously the Pokemon that you want to see against this Pyroar. But obviously, a Grass and Fairy type Whimsicott can switch in very easily into this Water Fighting type Quavel. But no, it actually chooses to stay in. Rigatoni, the Quavel, dodges the Heat Wave. Jimbo James will be taken out, but this Quavel free to get some big damage off this turn.
Absolutely could be threatening the Aqua Step, but no, it's just going to be the Wave Crash. So opting for the bigger damage option will be enough to pick up the knockout here. We'll have to see if it's the Moxie as the ability, giving it an attack boost, recoil damage, and it is Moxie, so +1 attack to the Quaquavel as the Life Orb ticks down as well. And we actually see the Cofagrigus opt for the Trick Room here. So, a bit interesting here. Jackson finding himself down to 2 more supportive Pokemon, but able to potentially at least flip the speed against his opponent here. We'll have to see how this turn plays out.
Right. I don't know that Trick Room is like super... I think it depends on how much the Shadow Ball from the Cofagrigus is able to do into the Gardevoir. Because as soon as the Gardevoir goes down, the Whimsicott's actually taking a lot of chip. At this point, I think the Cofagrigus is able to get Shadow Ball here, but I don't know that this is enough to take out the Gardevoir. Gardevoir
will go down. Cofagrigus able to do just enough damage to take it out from just over half HP. And it's the triple axle reveal. Shiny Whimsicott fans, cover your eyes. The Cotton Puff will go down to the Quaquavel as it goes up to +2 attack from the Moxie. But now you are in Cofagrigus' domain with the Trick Room. Will it be able to claim this KO, or will Quaquavel just dance its way on to a Game 1 victory?
Certainly, we're going to see Quaquavel be able to claim a game here, which is, I mean, the Cofagrigus, maybe it gets like Will-O-Wisp off, but at +2, Wave Crash is definitely going to do 33% to this Cofagrigus, and even if it doesn't, then I don't think Wave Crash, Recoil, plus Will-O-Wisp, plus like Shadow Ball is enough, so I think Jackson just got to send the Shadow Ball, see what it can do. It would be enough for the 2-hit KO, but Wave Crash more than enough to get this KO into Cofagrigus.
Yeah.
And that'll be Game 1 for Pixel Matt / Pixel Moon.
Yeah, absolutely, and not even enough, we'll have to see, yeah, not even quite enough recoil to take the return KO just for funds. But yeah, we will see Game 1 going over to Matt, and gotta say, very interesting approach from both trainers. I like the idea from Jackson here to use that Whimsicott to get the Worry Seed out and keep that Gardevoir from threatening quite so much damage with something like that Hyper Voice. But I think I would have liked to see Whimsicott maybe be a little bit more proactive in that set. We really just saw it get off that one Worry Seed, take a bunch of damage, and then get knocked out, as we will get into preview of game number 2 here. Interested to see how our trainers are able to adapt, but a big point of emphasis I did have for this one is, Matt, getting that Corviknight involved. It is your S tier pick. I think you need to really find the value in that high priority Pokemon. Meanwhile, on Jackson's side though, Pyroar doing a surprising amount of work. We talked about those lower tier Pokemon. You don't have to be Mega Pyroar to threaten huge damage, especially here in Draft League. So it'll be interesting to see what adjustments these trainers can come up with.
Right. I think this is another matchup where I think there's not a lot of immediate offense on either side. Gardevoir is probably the closest that we have, which is spreading Hyper Voices, but Whimsicott able to shut that down with the Worry Seed. Actually, both trainers know exactly what they want to do. They're getting into this match very quickly. We'll have to see if there's any lead adjustments or if they decide to run back their game plans and maybe just have to adjust their initial move strategies. As we see the Hoodra make an appearance for Jackson, followed up by the Rigatoni, the Quaquavel, and the Polti guy coming out from the side of Pixel Matt.
Yes, indeed. It is the Poltegeist. So we know our Pokemon. We're very good at this.
I love this game.
Yeah, absolutely. We remember every obscure Pokemon out of the 1,025 of them. But yeah, so interesting here. Hoodra, obviously very bulky, can do some funny setup things, but also does just have access to a relatively broad move pool. Whimsicott, of course, known for all of the prankster shenanigans, but will just be moving first, ripping the Moonblast into the Quaquavel, and we may just see this Pokemon go down to a single tick of Life Orb. Special attack drop, not very relevant here. Triple Axle will come out in response. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hits into the Whimsicott, and Shiny Whimsicott making a departure from this one once again. We'll see, is the Life Orb going to be enough to claim the Quaquaval, or will it get to leverage this Moxie boost for one more turn? It will hang on with a sliver of health, as it is going to be the Shelter coming out from the Hoodra. Getting that defense boost will be able to keep itself at least somewhat safe in the face of this now +1 Quaquaval. But Trick Room actually working against Matt here, perhaps anticipating Whimsicott to go for a Tailwind.
Right. I think just based on tiering, you know, maybe you're not super excited to see your S tier drop immediately, but I think, yeah, if Jackson has something that can take advantage of this Trick Room, just like this coffee dude, then you know, that's exactly what you want to see. Maybe like you know, Matt has something like Ally Switch on that Poltegeist to try and protect the Quaquaval one more turn, but you could probably just send off, you know, attacks onto either slot. Into both slots, and then because Quaquaval is the fastest thing, usually it's the slowest thing, and Trick Room definitely will be able to get knocked out by any combination of attacks here, but we do just see Shadow Ball ripped into that Poltegeist, doing about 2/3 of its HP.
Yep.
Body press follows up.
Bonk. Yep, that's going to be the end for Quaquaval. Will fall to that attack, but it's going to be a Shadow Ball in return, but we saw the Castleberry in game number 1 activating now rather than being knocked off. Cofagrigus will hang on at a pretty healthy 64%, and now actually it's revealed that the slowest Pokemon under Trick Room is the one on the side of the field for Matt here, so a bit of an interesting pickle he's gotten himself into.
Right. I think that kind of interesting to note, actually. I mean, this Scrafty, you're definitely going to want to Will-O-Wisp it if you're Jackson, but actually, it also depends on how much Body Press is able to do as well, since you are Shelter boosted, you are at +2. I think both of these Ghost types would really want to send Will-O-Wisps into their, you know, the Pokemon directly opposite them, but we do just see Cofagrigus choose to take the KO onto the Poltegeist with the Shadow Ball. I think this is not a terrible play to make either, especially given that the first Shadow Ball did 36% to the Cofagrigus. It's in range of another Shadow Ball from that Poltegeist too. Knockoff comes out with the Castleberry gone, actually not enough to take the KO, and we see Mummy exchange not really doing anything here, but the Cofagrigus is going to be able to stick around for one more turn as Body Press comes into Scrafty. Not enough for the KO, maybe in Shadow Ball range from this Cofagrigus next turn.
Could very well be. Shell Armor will be replaced by Mummy. So, Citrus Berry will definitely be putting it out of range of a Shadow Ball, I would think. But now Gardevoir hits the field. Gardevoir may be the victim of this Shadow Ball, and it's just Mummy all around the board for the moment. Of course, Gardevoir will be able to get rid of that with the Mega Evolution. But yeah, 2 turns of Trick Room, and this Trick Room really has definitely favored Jackson more than Matt, the one who set it up.
Right. At this point, though, I think there's not really much that's stopping a Mega from the Gardevoir Protect. Block the Shadow Ball coming to the from the Cofagrigus into the Gardevoir. And then Scrafty can take the KO with no Protect, actually, with the knockoff, actually doing over half to that Gardevoir. So this is surely... Oh, Spin F drop into the Gardevoir, not what you want to see. As Drain Punch... Not that much damage into the +2. Now Mummy, so could have crit, but don't see the crit. Boosted, Shelter boosted Goodra. Body Press going to be more than enough to take the KO into Scrafty here. And Gardevoir will follow up with some sort of attack, but probably not that much.
It would be interesting to see here. Hyper Voice will be able to do a fair amount of damage as it comes out here. Will claim the Cofagrigus. Potentially looks like it could KO the Goodra. But no, the Leftovers reveal may just be enough for it. We'll have to see what the damage roll looks like. But we also still have this final Pokemon to be revealed. And Pyroar. Pyroar is not going to mind this Pixelate boosted Hyper Voice one bit. And I think Gardevoir may find itself in a little bit of a speed sandwich here at the end of Trick Room.
Right, I think you're kind of doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. It does reveal Protect, so if this Goodra does have a Steel-type move, there's Heavy Slam, that would have been good for, probably good for a KO into Gardevoir, and the Pyro reveals Snarl, actually. But now, as Trick Room expires at the end of this turn, you're certainly free with the Pyroar to just do whatever you want. Heat Wave, I guess you can Snarl if you're really so inclined.
Yeah,
but at this point, I think Jackson should have this game wrapped up.
Yeah, it will just be a Snarl here, not revealing anything else, but doing quite a bit of damage and reducing special attack on Gardevoir's side. Hyper Voice not going to be... It will actually be enough to pick up the Hoodra here. It's the critical hit, the Mummy backfiring! And
how often do you see that?
I can honestly say I have never seen a Hoodra having Mummy passed to it by way of an opponent get KO'd by a critical hit, but it will just be a Flamethrower revealed. Able to mop this one up. So Jackson, perhaps a little gamesmanship on the stat line, trying to pass another KO over to his Hoodra, which is leading his team in KOs. But we will be going to a game 3. More opportunities for both of our trainers to pad those stat lines. More opportunities to improve their standing. Jackson trying to climb to 4-0 to secure a spot at the top of that conference. Meanwhile, on Matt's side, you're really kind of fighting for your season. We'll have to see, can he bring this one back after game number 2?
Yeah, I think, well, we're now officially confirmed at out of our 5 matches tonight, 2 out of 5 going to game 3, which is quite exciting. I think if you are Matt, you saw how much Trick Room backfired for you, especially as you set Trick Room while KOing the fastest Pokemon on Jackson's side, giving them the opportunity to bring in the coffee guy. And so I think probably a very easy mental adjustment to make. Oh yeah, just don't set Trick Room this game. You did plenty fine without it. The Whimsicott seems not so inclined to click Tailwind right now, so you're probably not going to catch that off guard. So I think if you play to some speed advantage that you might have with your Quaquaval outside of Trick Room, you'd be pretty happy. In fact, no Aqua Step revealed. It is Wave Crash. So you can't get the speed jump on the Pyroar, for instance, but if you play out of Trick Room, that Quaquaval probably would have threatened serious offensive pressure into Goodra and Pyroar, if not for the speed disadvantage. So we are going to get into this game 3. We reveal Whimsicott, Pyroar as the leads for Jackson, and Jimbo James, the Scrafty, and the Gardevoir being revealed here. You know what? Maybe you do set Trick Room now, actually. Maybe that is okay.
Maybe you do indeed. We'll have to see. Both of these fast Pokemon putting on a lot of pressure. Of course, both capable of disrupting this Gardevoir's game plan with the Snarl and with the Worry Seed. Lots of pressure here coming from both sides. I think Scrafty will be much happier under a Trick Room, but can Jackson use that to his advantage once again? There will be a fair bit of gamesmanship afoot. Interesting to see what Pokemon are in the back as well. We've yet to see the Sharpedo or the Skeledirge. Not sure if either of those Pokemon will play a factor, but it will be a Moonblast opening up. Jimbo James. Will Jimbo go on home? Whimsicott able to claim the one-hit knockout. And normally when I'm seeing Whimsicott take one-hit knockouts, my Swampert is just getting cheesed by Energy Ball in the Ranked Ladder. But Whimsicott showing that 4 times super effective means something. Gardevoir getting the Trick Room up, but notably not Mega Evolving on turn number 1. Quite interesting. I did not catch which move it was able, or which ability it was able to trace, but if it was able to trace the Unnerve, may have been a cheeky play to counter that Chople on the Pyroar. But now...
I do believe it was the Unnerve, yeah.
Yeah. So now, though, under Trick Room, staring down this Whimsicott, and Pyroar, you have to think Pyroar under quite a bit of pressure from this Quaquaval, but also Whimsicott. We've seen it go down to the Triple Axle twice now, as Gardevoir will just protect. Still no Mega Evolution, wanting to play around that Prankster Worry Seed. Protect also coming out from Pyroar, will keep itself safe. Who does Quaquaval target? It's going to be the close combat. So, Whimsicott, perhaps going on the offensive again, getting the call right, the Moonblast, and that's a much better roll. Quaquaval will absolutely go down to a tick of Life Orb now, and Whimsicott on the verge of just taking this game over.
Right. How often do we see that Whimsicott's putting in a lot of work just with its its offensive pressure from the Moonblast? But I think probably I can imagine a Protect on the Gardevoir, probably to deny maybe like an Encore from the Whimsicott, but we haven't seen it all set. I would be inclined to believe it doesn't have it at this point, as the Gardevoir actually chooses to switch out, getting rid of the Unnerve ability and reactivating the Chople for the Pyroar. Nope, never mind. There's another Unnerve user in the back, as the Pyroar also scared of this non-Chople blocked close combat, switches into Coffee Man. Encore Whimsicott actually does get revealed this turn, and we see the follow-up from the Quaquaval.
But it's
does
close
end up bouncing
combat
off the
into the
Ghost
Cofagrigus. Yeah, so now, interesting. The game within the game. Encore and close combat, both failing to land their target. 2 turns Trick Room remain, and now we've seen how Cofagrigus has been able to turn this Trick Room against Matt. And you really, once again, have this speed sandwich. Quaquaval very much in dire straits at a mere 2% HP, will potentially go down to just about anything. Corviknight, you would love to start setting up. You would love to get the bulk ups off. You would love to get a Brave Bird into this Whimsicott, which has been a thorn in your side. But you have to respect the Cofagrigus as well as the unrevealed 4th Pokemon in the back for Jackson.
Right, I think at this point, the Cofagrigus can just shoot a Shadow Ball into the Quaquaval slot. You know that there's a Gardevoir potentially that could switch in, but what's the Gardevoir going to do? And there's a Shadow Ball. It takes out that Quaquaval. This Hoodra revealed as the last Pokemon. If it sets up another Iron Defense, maybe it's really going to stand in the way of some physical type shenanigans from this Corviknight, though the Corviknight does wisely choose to bulk up. 1 more turn of Trick Room remaining going into this turn. Cofagrigus pretty well positioned. It can shoot a Shadow Ball into that Gardevoir. Shell Armor probably not really impactful at this point in the game. Or it can send a Will-O-Wisp into that Corviknight, which I think is probably even more valuable. But lots of decisions to be made here. Game's not quite over, but Jackson definitely has the lead here. Looking at Twitch chat, it looks like we do have some Pyroar fans at home. Bring it home, Pyroar. Yeah, Pyroar might be able to do it. I think as soon as Pyroar gets to hit the field, it gets to obliterate that Corviknight with a Flamethrower or a Heat Wave. Gardevoir's not doing that much into it either. There is Will-O-Wisp into the Corviknight, going to have its physical attack and take 6% chip at the end of every turn for the rest of the game.
Yep.
What are we going to see from this turn?
It will actually just be the Heavy Slam on Rip here from the Hoodra, and that's going to be enough for a 1-hit knockout. Gardevoir, it's the critical hit, giving up the Shell Armor, backfiring for Matt. The abilities bouncing about this game have been absolutely insane, but Corviknight, 1 more bulk up for the road, but at this point, it's 4 versus 1. It's Corviknight versus the world.
Yeah, Corviknight, there's no way it gets out of this. All Jackson needs to do is just, I don't know, chuck a bunch of attacks into it, wait for the Corviknight to kill one of these guys over the course of like 17 million turns, and then bring in the Pyroar and click Flamethrower and you're fine. You can't switch into Pyroar preemptively in case a Body Press goes into it in a wild move, but we do see Brave Bird launch, cheeky ally switch. This is doing not that, she did a reasonable amount of damage. More than I would have expected, honestly.
Yeah,
for basically a neutral Corviknight. As Shelter Gudra gets set up. Yeah, we're playing with our food at this point.
Yeah, I think if you're Jackson, you get to pick whoever takes this last KO, and we saw the gamesmanship in the last one trying to get that kill passed over to the Hoodra. Maybe seeing a little bit of the same shenanigans here. Yeah, Corviknight, buddy, you know, if you have something like a Body Press available, now would be the time. But you still have to be mindful of the threat of that ally switch. But no, another Brave Bird, and Hoodra seems wholly unbothered.
Yeah, I mean, ally switch actually does act like Protect now, where it does fail after multiple consecutive, or it's like a 1/3, you know, increasing chance to fail consecutively. But at this point, Shadow Ball into the Corviknight. It's not even Mirror Armor. You can't even send that Spit F drop back to the Cofagrigus. Not that it would matter from this physical attacking Corviknight. Yeah, I hope you have popcorn, snacks. I mean, we know how this game's gonna end. It's just however long it's gonna take us to get there, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of an impending countdown here. Certainly, Hoodra looking, waiting. I've never known a snail to be a predator, but we are now seeing one. Corviknight choosing to drop the Unnerve and pick up a Mummy ability from Cofagrigus as a final parting gift. The Body Press actually not enough here. We will be seeing, no, because there's leftovers at play. So it's actually no, the Shadow Ball does come out, so Cofagrigus will end up claiming the final KO. After all, a critical hit to boot. Insult to injury, salt in the wound. Corviknight, you have fallen from the sky. Hoodra and Cofagrigus claiming victory for Jackson here in game number 3. And it's been an interesting slate of games all day long, and certainly more fun than we should be allowed to have getting to yap about Pokemon from what was it, 6 o'clock through 9:30 now at this point. Um, but yeah, absolutely another fun set. I hope that all the Whimsicott fans at home enjoyed watching the little Cotton Puff pop off there at the end. I know I certainly did, but well played by both of our trainers. And the man of the moment himself, the league commissioner, Jackson, congratulations. You've improved to 4-0 on the season. How does it feel, my man?
So, for all my JoJo's fans out there, it was down and out in game one. You know, we got absolutely smoked. But if you've seen JoJo, you've seen the scene at the end of season 2 where Cars emits in the sunlight, breaking reality. That was King Whelmy, the Cophagrigus, coming through to deny anything that stands in his way. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, definitely your Cophagrigus put in a lot of work this week. Really didn't feel like there was much offensive pressure into it. It just got to sit there and spread mummies and spread Will-O-Wisp and spread Shadow Balls. So definitely put in a lot of good work. Hoodra, also your team kill leader, improving even more after this match. Were you actually JJ and I were talking about this. Eventually, there were certain points when the games were kind of locked up. Were you trying to go out of your way to increase his kill counter even more? Were you trying to game the leaderboards a bit?
In game 3, I was just kind of clicking buttons when it was just the coordinate because I knew I'd already won.
Yeah.
He does his job and he does it good. I'm not, it'd be great if he got the kill leaderboard, but I know he'd be on the top because you have to remember that because of the week 1 debacle of Justin missing the match, that all my Mons have no stats other than brains for what I had as my 6.
Right.
So I like to think there's a little handicap on him. So it's like if LeBron had the Rock Lee weights, except it's not LeBron, because that's Ladene James.
Ladene James. Yeah, I think it's definitely been an interesting roller coaster season for the Dragonite Delivery Express team as a whole. Definitely Cophagrigus and Hoodra putting in a lot of work, but I will say it was definitely fun to watch Whimsicott. We all remember the set against Aaron where it came down to Endeavor plus beat up. This game opting just for the classic Moonblast and slapping that Quaquaval around. How good did it feel for Whimsicott to actually kind of step into the spotlight as a bit of an offensive threat this week?
It was definitely there just for the Quaquaval because that's definitely scary for me. This Galley's not very physically heavy, and then Sharpedo, Goodra. He actually ran it really slow. It was my Whimsicott has no speed investment this week, and he was faster under Trick Room with his Quaquaval.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting.
Now I know Whims is naturally faster, but to see it on Quaquaval was actually pretty cool. So
Yeah,
kudos to Matt.
definitely one of those Pokemon you think of more as like a, focus sash, max, kind of just turn your brain off kind of Pokemon, especially when you have access to like Moxie plus Aqua Step, right? You're just, boost your speed, take a KO, boost your attack, Aqua Step again, boost your speed, take a KO, boost your attack. Yeah, to see it run a bit bulkier was definitely interesting, but Whimsicott able to put it, especially in game 3, they're putting in the range where it would KO itself with its own life orb recoil. Definitely reduce the amount of threat you were under pretty significantly.
Yeah, this team as a whole is definitely scarier for me than most of the ones I've faced. It also another kudos to Pixelman because every time I clicked upper hand on my Gallade, he would not fake out, and then game 3 he finally faked out, and I was like, all right, dude. But no, he still played that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well played on both sides. It was definitely a joy to get to cast this one, and yeah, definitely it was interesting at first because it was you know, with the fake out plus upper hand mind games. It took us a second to register that the upper hand was coming from Gallade and not from the Scrafty. the one that definitely looks like much more of a fighting type Pokemon. So it took us a second to fully grasp what was going on until we saw Scrafty just ripping Ironhead. But yeah, definitely a lot of discipline on the side of Matt there to resist the temptation, right? The fake out play being so easy to click, but knowing, I think a lot of respect paid to you. You're definitely a skilled player, good in the builder. Something as straightforward as fake out Trick Room, definitely something that you brought a lot of tools for. We also saw the Worry Seed come out from Whimsicott into the Gardevoir, denying that Pixelate boost for Hyper Voice. How much of your prep this week was dedicated to that Gardevoir and making sure it couldn't just rip through your team by screaming at it?
Maybe like 10 minutes. It was a really hard 10 minutes though, to be fair. Everything else, I just kind of like, oh, I'm at work. I'm just gonna mull over it in between the blah of life. But I really like his Gardevoir was like the one I had to sit down, and that and the Corviknight. Those were the two I had to sit down and like really think, because those were the scarier ones, along with the Quaquaval. I know the Scrafty, I was like, oh, it could be Roselli Berry or whatever, so it could tank. Or like, even if I have like, if I'm not modest or like have no invest, like it can live with max bulk of a Moonblast, which is crazy. But that just shows how much special tech Whimsicott has. It's just worse than Ninetale somehow. But yeah, the Gardevoir was like his main centerpiece, and a lot of my pieces naturally kind of wall his setup pieces, like his Poltegeist. I'm pretty sure it doesn't get a good move to hit Pyroar, and so using its Unnerve ability, I had Snarl on it in case he did bring the Skeledirge in, because then I could just wall the Skeledirge. I just deny it the weaken it, and he can't like Torch Song to keep boosting. I just keep weakening, and I'm getting the super effective damage on him. So there's that, and the Whimsicott, of course, with the Fairy Pressure, the Cofagrigus, just like you said earlier, just being able to sit there and be annoying, really good. And the Cassibberry, I'm actually surprised he just straight up attacked the Mummy in game 2 after he knocked off the berry in game 1. I don't know if he was just like, oh, nice, good damage, and then missed that ghost resist, or ghost weak berry or whatever. But I was like, oh, okay, sure, thanks.
Yeah, definitely game 2, I think, definitely played right into your hands. We saw Matt set up that Trick Room, and then Poltegeist ended up being, the fastest or the slowest Pokemon under Trick Room, as Cofagrigus really kind of just took that whole game under over Trick Room and let the Hoodra just kind of build a house, build a deck, install a pool, kind of just set itself up for success. Yeah, game 2, you really just took over and kind of turned the strategy from Matt against him there.
It definitely was like a good movie recommendation for those who have the heart to watch it. The house that Jack built, it sounded like you were referencing that, so I recommend watching it if you have a good horror taste.
Ooh. I'll have to keep that in mind. I was not referencing it, but
you said build a house and build the house and killing the enemies, and I was like, ooh, JJ knows ball. But
no, just being goofy after being on the mic for almost 4 hours, but that's the fun. That's the fun of Draft League. We get to yap about Pokemon all day and forget about how stressful the real world is, which I think we all appreciate now more than ever. Of course, Jackson, you being the commissioner, putting this league together, of course, we definitely all appreciate it for you as well. Anything you like to say to the fans at home who have tuned in for this marathon of Draft League matches?
Thanks for spending your lifetime tonight playing a kids game ran by adults at an adult level. Appreciate that. Glad it's something we can all share in common and love. I appreciate the community is like the best part of this league, other than of course winning, because everybody loves winning. But at the end of the day, it's a lot fun to see the cool text and see how be like, oh my god, and just recapping with like, here if you win, or even like in that text log and post game chat, like it's really nice to see like, wow, these guys can cook, right? So yes, thank you, Chef. Yes, Chef. Shout out the Bear, shout out Chicago, shout out Austin.
Yeah.
But just showing up is over half the battle, and it is for fun. So maybe not really like an exact like struggle to show up, but I appreciate everybody because it's a collective effort. I run the league, but it doesn't happen without everyone else. So thank you.
Absolutely. It takes two to tango. It takes, well, 36 of us to have a draft league, as we've definitely put together a unique one this summer, but I think everyone collectively having quite a blast. Jackson, thank you so much once again. Congratulations on the win. Congratulations on the 4-0. We'll have to see if you can keep the momentum going. You're going to have to double up this week, unfortunately, but maybe fortunately. We love this game, so maybe playing it twice in 1 week isn't too bad. But yeah, you find yourself at a little bit of a log jam at the top now. 4 teams on your side of the conference, undefeated at the mid-season mark. Definitely has to feel good for you, but you also, I think, are probably keeping yourself on your toes, wanting to make sure you get that playoff berth.
Yeah, it ain't over till it's over. So I'm not gonna boast about my record until I win the playoffs and the championship. If that happens, then that happens. That's cool. First step is just making playoffs. So
Absolutely, you can't have a Super Bowl parade until you win the Super Bowl. It's a pretty smart strategy, I would say. All right, but with that being said, I think we're probably pretty good to wrap this up. This is definitely, I would say, probably our longest stream of the season. So, going to be very fun to get this one uploaded on the YouTube. I'm sure it'll take quite a while for this to download. But for myself, for Austin, for Jackson, for the entire league, everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for listening to us yap about Mons for like almost 4 full hours. Thank you to everybody who played today, and thank you to everyone who didn't play today but will play your games for this week. Thank you, Pikachu. Am I
True.
forgetting anybody?
Love that guy. That might
who's
cover it.
It's not Doug Bowser anymore. It's someone else, right?
Oh, it's a woman, I think. I forget.
Oh
her
hell
name.
yeah!
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out everybody.
Shout out her.
Shout out. Yeah.
Shout out you, Crazy Sauce in the chat specifically. Thank you, casters.
Who
Yeah,
is
we do.
that?
I have no idea.
I don't know what Crazy Sauce
There
is
you
either,
go.
but
Hi, Crazy Sauce.
Crazy Sauce knew the Jin Air lore from earlier, so they know ball. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's EJ.
Oh, it's EJ. Oh, it's EJ. Hi,
Of course,
EJ.
Of course, EJ
Oh, that
knows
makes sense with
ball.
the Rick and Morty and the sauce.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so true.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi, EJ.
There's so many
congrats
layers.
Congrats on your win. See you.
So
in
many
week 8.
layers. So many layers. All right. Well, with that, everybody, we will catch you all later. And have fun. Stay safe. Touch grass. Stay hydrated. Don't do anything that we wouldn't do. I don't know. Peace.
I do lots of things. Oh, bye bye.